Boom. There it is. Mr. James Henry.
We
It
are
is
live.
always a pleasure. How are you doing
Exactly.
today?
I'm good, thank you. How are you?
I'm doing all right. We had a good time this weekend. I'm single dad right now, so we ended up trying to make cookies this last weekend. It was fun.
Nice.
So yeah, we did like the sugar cookies. I'm pretty sure that they're gonna suck. I haven't tried them, but this is like the first time making them since doing it with my mom when I was like a little kid. But I have little girls and they like making stuff, so we
Yeah.
tried.
I'm sure the sugar in there will smooth out any rough edges. So
Yes, yeah. So I will say this: so we made sugar cookies. We loaded them all the way up with icing, and like we got like I think about 10 different things of sprinkles because they were really interested in the sprinkles. So there is a healthy amount of sugar on these. So
nice.
I think that makes everything better.
Yeah.
Hopefully, we'll see. Yeah, we got people filtering in here. We'll give people a little bit more of a chance to show up. But how was your weekend, James?
It was good, thank you. Yeah, the weather here now is amazing. It's absolutely perfect in the Middle East, and we've hard earned through the brutal summer. So getting outside now and enjoying it as much as possible. Playing a lot of golf. It's basically what that means for me. Playing as much golf as possible.
See, the thing is, I used to live in the American equivalent, I think, of Dubai, at least when it comes to weather in Arizona. That was
the
really
only real
nice.
difference is Arizona is a dry heat, and people assume it's a dry heat here, but it's super humid.
Really?
So yeah, because like Dubai and Abu Dhabi and stuff, it's all built on the coast.
Yeah. Okay, that makes sense.
So yeah, in the summer it's not only brutally hot, it's brutally humid as well. So that's another thing. It's like a double whammy. In the winter, the humidity comes right down and the temperature comes down. So it really is a terrible contrast. But yeah, Arizona is definitely, in terms of temperature, it's basically the same. Yeah.
Yeah. That makes sense. Yeah, it always felt exactly like you said. Like you were paying the price during the summer,
Yeah.
and you paid a heavy price. Like, don't get me wrong, but the winters were amazing because of that.
Yeah.
So,
especially as we're both very fair skinned, like
yes.
we're not really cut out for living under the sun all the time. No.
You're making me laugh too much, James. It's making me cough. Sorry.
I'm sorry.
You're fine. All right. Let's switch over to my notes here. We'll get started on what we wanted to look at today. Let's throw that up there on the screen. Put us off to the side. I'll make that even a little bit bigger too. So this is kind of the plan that I put together for today, and we'll just go over it real quick. But James, if you could start us off with like 5 minutes of NX release, and maybe we can like go through the docs or just look at what's available. I know you've given like sort of the talk on NX release several times now, and it feels like one of those features we've released that like keeps getting more and more features on it, which is really cool. So just getting well acquainted with where that's at right now. I think that would be good for like if we're building a pyramid here, get just like laying a base for like what is NX release and what is it capable of. So
yep. So NX release is almost a tool within the tool, because it has lots of its own capabilities. It has certain extensibility points, configuration, things like that. And obviously there's a ton of tools out there that only deal with releases and things like that. Not only that, but most tools out there will usually only deal with one ecosystem. So if you think about something like change sets or Learner originally, like it's dealing with JavaScript packages. It's bread and butter, but it cannot go further than that. Whereas with NX release, because NX itself is agnostic to the tooling that you're using, agnostic to the programming language, agnostic to the ecosystem, you can use NX with Rust, with .NET, with Go, whatever. NX release also needs to be able to handle that. And it's not just NX releases for JavaScript only. Now, because so many people use NX with JavaScript, TypeScript, monorepos and stuff, we have provided a kind of first-class JavaScript experience out of the box where you don't really need to think about those extensibility points as much if you're only dealing with JavaScript packages. But it's just good for people to know that that power is there if they wanted to work in a polyglot, a multi-language workspace where they have a Java backend and an NX frontend. You could release different types of units of code with NX release.
Yeah.
And looking forward, looking into 2025, we're going to be rounding out the story a lot more with application deployments being powered by NX Release. One of the reasons for I called it NX Release and not like NX Publish or something more narrow focused is it's dealing with all manner of releases, whether that's pushing to a registry for a code package, or if that's pushing to a Docker registry, putting codes on a server somewhere. It's meant to cover all of those different things.
Very
and
cool.
yeah, you've entered the kind of like the main entry point of the docs here. Features, manage releases on the left-hand side. This is kind of the entry point for releases. This is a talk I gave at NXConf a little while ago now, so we probably need to do an updated video into this space, but it does cover the main pillars of the concept of NX Release. And if you scroll down a little bit, you'll see that basically NX Release is 3 main phases, if you like. So we need to version things. And again, in a JavaScript space, that means updating package JSON files. But in another ecosystem, there'd be a different so-called manifest file to update. So in Rust, that would be a cargo toml file. That would be our equivalent. And it will have a version in it. It will have dependencies in it. And so during that phase, we will resolve the current version from somewhere. And again, this is extensible, configurable. So you might just, in the most basic case, you have a package JSON. It has a version number in which represents the current version, and that's it. But you might have more exotic setups where you want to resolve the current version from the registry itself. You don't want to have a version number in your package JSONs on disk, and you want to get it from the registry. That's actually what we do in the NX repo for NX releasing itself with NX Release.
Nice.
And other people want to use Git as their source of truth for the current version and also for bumps. So you can use Git tags as the current version. So again, you wouldn't strictly need a version number all the time in your package JSON checked into source control, because another thing you can do is you can build your code somewhere else that's maybe not tracked with source control and publish from there. So again, you wouldn't need to track the current version on disk if you're resolving it from a registry or from a Git tag. You wouldn't strictly need to track it on disk. So there's a lot of configurability just in the versioning phase. And I've not even touched on how we trigger like side effects of dependencies and dependents being affected by you changing a package and you've got something that depends on that package. Well, we can trigger an automatic bump of the thing that depends on it, even if they're independently released. Because within releases, obviously, you have the concept of having, let's say, a group of packages and they all move together in lockstep, like the NX repo. People know that when we publish NX, we also publish at NX/ESLint plugin, at NX/JS, and they all move together.
Right.
So we call that fixed versioning. But there's also independent versioning where there's another kind of monorepo that they have a load of utilities and they're not strictly related to each other. Maybe a few of them have a dependency on another, but it's not some all-encompassing tool set that gets used together. They might set up independent releases and we will only trigger a patch of another one if it depends on a project, because as a side effect, you want that to happen.
Right.
So versioning is by far the most complicated section of the stuff, but just because there's so many preferences, there's so much choice out there of how people like to version their stuff. Right. I haven't even touched on file-based versioning, which is what ChangeSets does, where you're divorced from your commit messages and stuff like that for your changelog source of truth, but you're also specifying your desired bumps in files on disk. And so in NX, we call these version plans because it's an intention to version that you codify in a file on disk, in a markdown file. And we can cover that in more detail. So yeah, versioning is by far the most complicated just because there's so many preferences, so many options. And then when you go into the changelog generation, again, this could come from one of two places. This could come from your Git history, or this could come from a file that's dedicated for the purpose of capturing a desired bump and changelog entry information. If you're coming from your Git history, then we leverage the conventional commit standard to be able to understand your commit messages and extract and then nicely format commit messages. That's kind of the experience that a lot of popular JavaScript repos use. The NX repo uses conventional commits, for example. And we generate changelogs. And we also, as part of the changelog step, you can extend it slightly and create a release on GitHub for that. So GitHub has the concept of a release, which is a specific type of entity on GitHub. And it's linked to a tag. So we can create that tag and create that release entry, like you can see here on the screen. We can create that for you automatically with the same content that we would also write to a changelog.markdown file on disk for you, which is optional. You can have either or both or neither if you want. Like again, you have a lot of configurability in there. You can have just changelog files on disk, just GitHub releases, neither, both. You have the options. And as you can see here, we also automatically extract the authors for the changes that were relevant for that release so that we can thank them and tag them down the bottom. Then GitHub automatically adds a contributor section recognizing the tags. So we can trace all of that through, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, this is actually really nice. I love the way that we have this set up. And I think like this is all automated, right? With the changelog piece of it.
And you can configure the look and feel of the change. I think our one's kind of nice out of the box because I'm biased and I designed the look of it. But if you were like, I want to call mine patches.
I love the band-aids right here, for example.
Yeah. If you wanted to change the band-aid emoji, you can, because we provide a changelog renderer abstraction where we can give you the commit data and you can decide to print it in a different way if you want to, but hook into all of the rest of the mechanics for us to create a GitHub release for you. We'll just take the content that the changelog renderer returned and put it up to GitHub. So that's the changelog phase. And then there's the publishing phase ultimately, which is going to take the artifact you have on disk, which might just be your source project still. In the simplest case, that you have a local disk directory that you've written into the source of the project. We would just publish that from your source. You might have a centralized disk directory where everything gets built, compiled down into something else, gets put in a disk directory, in which case you can point NX release at that centralized disk directory relative path inside of there. And you can publish from there. And a key distinction we make is that we don't want to manipulate your package in memory before we send it off to NPM. So we call NPM publish, the CLI from NPM. Okay. Unlike, for example, Learner had all this complicated re-implementation of NPM publish using low-level utility libraries. It means that what actually gets sent over the wire to the NPM registry is potentially very different from what you have on disk. And so if there are issues along the way or whatever, it makes it very hard to trace what actually got sent. So we made a design decision early on. A, we didn't want to maintain a ton of custom glue code. So we wanted to just invoke NPM publish. But B, just, that being able to go somewhere on disk to CD into a directory and just know that this is what your package looks like, that your users are going to see as well, is a powerful property. And it keeps a clear separation of concerns between versioning is updating your package JSON and changing things. Publishing is just taking what you've done and pushing it up. Yeah. And that means we can offer nice dry run for versioning, for example, whereas dry run publish is just invoking npm publish dry run, which is still nice because you still see a preview of the tar that will be sent up and you see some file sizes and stuff like that. But we can't provide 100% of the custom experience around that, like we can with versioning. Right. Now, the one exception to this is PMPM actually offers out of the box the capability to dynamically swap local references, things like workspace : or file : and it will swap them at publish time. So that means that you can on disk still have a file reference or a workspace reference in your package JSON as you publish, and PMPM will swap it for you. Whereas NPM, and Yarn just invokes NPM publish, I believe, with Yarn NPM publish or something. But yeah, PMPM is the only package manager that supports that. So if you are using that,
interesting,
we have an additional flag for the versioning step, which allows you to tell NX release, hey, leave the local workspace references alone, leave file : or leave workspace thing alone when you're updating my dependencies. And then later when you publish, PMPM will handle swapping those for actual version numbers. So it does that kind of in-memory manipulation of your package that I mentioned, but it's kind of like it's the package manager doing that, not us. We're not messing with your package in memory. So you can still reliably trace, okay, if I CD'd into this directory and I ran PMPM publish myself, I know the behavior. It's going to behave the same way. Right. So we are, like, I don't want to rule out 100% us trying to make that possible for other package managers, because I think it is the nicest experience when you can have your monorepo reference things by workspace : and leave the dependencies alone during versioning, and then just publish them out. But yeah, that currently it would involve us doing a lot of extra stuff and messing with your packages in a way that we'd love to avoid if we can.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So for now, it's basically, if you want that behavior, I recommend PNPM. PNPM is a great package manager anyway. Arguably, it's the best package manager. It's obviously a debate that I don't want to get into, but it's a very nice experience to use it. So I would say it's a great choice to partner up with NX Release, and in NX in general. NX and PNPM are a great partnership, I think, as a monorepo management duo.
Agreed. I've been warming up to PNPM. Originally, I was very hesitant just because I like my node modules there, like not symlinks, like there. Right? Yeah, I get it. We got a lot of folks in chat, so let's say hi to them. There's Yuri. Hey, Yuri. So Yuri, as he mentioned, well, it seems like he's a fan of NX Release, and he had mentioned this to us. He's working on something right now. I don't think we can say exactly what it is, but it is coming soon, and I believe we can say that it'll be free. So
yeah, it's a video. It's a video course, and it will definitely help illuminate a lot of the things we're talking about today, with guided examples and stuff.
Yeah, we do have a question here. Why is npm the default package manager when creating a new workspace? Well, I don't know. I know I've gotten to the place where whenever I do create a new workspace, I just pass like --pm equals pm. So James has convinced me, I guess you could say, on that one.
Yeah, but, you can either do that, or if you invoke create NX workspace with said package manager, if you do pm dlx create NX workspace, you're just getting pm. So if you use npx create NX workspace, you're telling us I like to use npm. But if you invoke it with yarn dlx or pm dlx or bun x,
I actually didn't know that.
If you do bun x create NX workspace, we'll give you a bun repo. So it's up to you when you invoke create package. Create NX workspace, which package manager you want to use.
That's cool. I just always do npx, so I was not aware.
Yeah, it's muscle memory, and that's really the answer to this person's question. Is the reason it's the default is because it's the default that comes with NPX. Node. Like it comes with Node. And like it's the default that most people will run. So we're just matching where the ecosystem is. But in terms of like your own preferences, you can express them through just invoking it with the right command instead of npx.
Yeah.
Or as you said, you can also just imperatively provide the package manager name with -package -manager or -pm. Whatever it is, whatever the shorthand is.
We do have some questions here that maybe this is getting more into the weeds, but this might be a good maybe just a broad answer here, James, just about the different strategies you'd use here. I believe like NX Release, you can pass actually like, is it -- major, -- minor, -- patch?
So it's a specifier. We have a there's a few concerns on this. Like I mentioned, versioning is kind of the most complicated bit. So there's multiple ways in which you can resolve the specifier. But yeah, the argument is called specifier, but it's also the first positional argument. So you could say NX release patch or NX release minor if you wanted to, or NX release -- specifier equals patch. Right. And so that would be a very imperative versioning where you are just telling the tooling, I know what I want, give me this bump. You can even be as imperative and direct as saying, give me 1.0.1. You could say NX release 1.0.1 as your specifier argument. So the specifier can be an exact semver version, or it can be a semver relative keyword, like major, minor, or patch, or pre-release, or pre-patch, pre-minor, pre-major. All of the things are supported that are kind of the semver stuff. And so that's one way, imperatively telling the tool what you want. But there are
just saying at the command line, here's what to do. But there's you're getting.
But there's other ways, which is conventional commits I mentioned. So we can use your Git history to infer the bump that you want. So if you have in your recent commit range, if you have a feat commit, that will get turned into a minor bump that is desired. And if you have a breaking change, that will get turned into a major bump. So that would be a feat with an exclamation mark, where you have breaking change in the body, for example. There's two different ways to signal a breaking change with conventional commits. Or if you had a fixed commit, it would turn into a patch. And then, as I mentioned, there's version plans, which is the file-based versioning approach. In those files, you specify the relative bump that you want. So you will say either like all my projects, or you'll say this particular project : and then major, minor, or patch will be what is the value of that key value pair for those projects. So there's multiple different ways in which that bump is known to us.
Right. Yeah. So maybe transitioning this to like where we want to go today with the stream was we want to kind of set this up for the project that I've been working on, or I had been working on. So this was the starter repo we had for Advent of Code. And so this is actually publishing is a very interesting piece of this, because one of the main things I'd love to test as part of this is like deploying it out to a registry. Locally, it would be my local registry, and then like running it locally against that registry, because it's essentially like a code generation script is the what the package is itself. So
Okay.
being able to look at that would be interesting. I'd love to explore like the file-based versioning for this project too, because that seems very interesting. I had talked to Austin about it, I think, in a previous live stream, like many moons ago, I think. But it was very that in particular was very interesting. I think it sounds very much the same case as sort of like going off of the Git commits. Just instead of using the Git commits as your source of truth, it's using like the file, like files on disk essentially, which I personally prefer. Like for me, like stuff in the Git history, it's fine. I understand it enough, but it's like this forbidden linked list almost that I prefer to deal with as little as possible. If I could just like deal with files on the disk instead, that's more apparent to me. So yeah, cool.
It's very applicable to if you've got a team of people and not everyone wants to follow the same commit structure as well. With conventional commits, you have to force everyone to write commits in the same way. Otherwise, the whole thing breaks down. So file-based versioning is useful if people aren't going to be consistently committing, you haven't been able to enforce it through relevant tooling, and you therefore control very precisely what the changelog generation is like, because you're basically writing partial changelog entries every time you update a version plan file. So
right. Makes sense. All right. Well, let's maybe go to the first point. So one of the things I want to do, like I said, the project that we're looking at right now, there's actually 2 packages in here, and a third that's just for end-to-end testing. One is create TS AOC starter. So this is essentially, if we look inside like the bin file here, this is using stuff like stuff inside of create NX workspace, and we're just kind of putting some very light things around that to I guess make it Christmassy, if you can see there. But I guess one of the things that I was hitting up against when I was working on this, James, was I was using Verdaccio to run this to publish it out to. So just locally, I could see, okay, let's make sure this is working. There are a couple things I hit. I think some of them we could just knock out very easily, but one of them was just more generally, how do I set it up so that it's almost like I need a different versioning strategy when I'm working locally, because with Verdaccio running, I actually can't publish over and over again the same version. I have to like continuously bump that version, but that version needs to only happen locally, if that makes sense. So I wanted to like bump. It's almost like if we look at the package JSON for my packages here, it's almost like what I would like to do is just have the version that's listed here, like just ignored almost, and just be like, I think you mentioned like we can kind of read from the registry like what the last version published was, and just like do some sort of patch on top of that. Is that something we can set up?
Yep, we can.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So when you what's the exact workflow you're doing? You just ad hoc publishing and trying to test things, or is this for an end-to-end test that this is working through?
I'd like to actually hit both of those. First, I think they're slightly different, but I think they probably will lead into each other. But if we could just focus on like local use. So this is, let's say I wanted to, I don't know, if we look at the bin here, let's say I wanted to change something around here so that instead of like using PMPM, let's say we used bun. I think that's an option. We just do bun here and then like change this to bun install. And now I want to make sure this works locally before I like try to do anything to it. The way I was doing it was like essentially, I think if we look at the base level project JSON, we have this in this project. We just have this local registry right here. So this is, I would just run NX local registry. That would start for Dashio. I'd hit publish. And then I just go to a different, like using my terminal, I'd go like up a level and then run the command. So I want all that to work, but I want all that to work with like, let me show you the workflow I'm going through right now. I do not love, I hate it actually. But what I was going through is I have this publish step on each one of the 2 packages. And I'm actually hitting this publish script that I think NX release is using. I'm not sure actually, but
can we have a look at the contents of that?
Yeah, sure. But as you can see, I'm actually like hitting this very directly in order to get that out. But yeah, let's take a look inside of tools and publish. So I believe this was all generated, and this was maybe a year ago because this was from last.
This is the old world, I'm afraid.
Okay,
so
gotcha.
Yeah, none of this is relevant anymore. So we'll basically want to start over and just ignore your, like you could clean up this script and remove the targets and stuff. We can just basically ignore that you have those targets, I think, for now.
Okay, that makes sense.
Let's just pretend this doesn't exist, and let's just
let me actually get rid of them. Let's start there, because I don't want to use them. Because at this point, I'm not really using NX release. I'm using like
you're literally not. You're literally not using NX release. Yeah, you're using an ad hoc publish script that we used to generate before NX release existed / was mature. So yeah.
Gotcha. Well, it's gone now. I did notice when I was originally using NX release, the way this package, the way this monorepo is set up, and we might need to touch this too. But as I'm building them, they're going into here. They're going into dist. I would actually love it if instead of like them going into dist, we could instead set it up. So like inside of our package JSON, like instead of the main being here, if the main was like inside of a dist that we built, if that makes sense, which like right now it's kind of like wonky. It's kind of like lying. Like it's set up to do this because it knows when I build it, it's going to be in a .js file. But right now, like that file doesn't exist, which I don't like. I'm essentially lying to make things work. So yeah. So how do I guess how do I use NX release now, and what steps would I have to do to set that up?
So if you want to make that change, like that's a key distinction, is where are your packages living that you want to version and publish. So if you want to make that change, we probably should start with that change of switching to build to a local dist.
Okay, so
packages
that would essentially be here, right?
Yeah, so that would be that.
So instead of like dist at the top level, we want to actually go into here and like do inside of here like dist.
Yeah, the only thing is, it's been a while, to be honest, because I've been working on the new TS setup where we use the Crystal plugin and we don't invoke the TSC executor. It's been a while since I've touched it. So I wonder if the TSC executor is going to spit out its own package JSON in the dist directory. That's the only thing. I can't remember. I can't remember if it copies the package JSON you have or if it outputs its own. So we can start with this and see what happens.
Okay, that sounds good. Let me do it for both of the 2 projects that are relevant here.
I mean, maybe just start with one because we'll be making the same changes to both. So let's just get it working for one.
Okay, let's work.
And then we can copy the final effect over.
Sounds good. So let's run the build on this one then, just this one. NX build. I think one of these might depend on the other. Pretty sure. I think the other one will depend on this one though. Okay, so we ran it.
We'll need your sidebar open to have a look what we did. Okay, yeah, so we do have the nested package JSON in there, and we have the nested generators JSON, and we have the nested README, none of which and we have a nested source. So yeah, the nested source is fine because there's nothing wrong with like we publish a dist with source inside of it in the NX packages as well. Right. There's not strictly any issue with that because we will link to the right place in the package JSON. But the fact that we're ending up with a nested README package JSON and generators JSON, we don't want those 3. So I wonder if we can configure the TSC executor in your project JSON to not do that. I can see you've got the asset copying. I don't know whether that's partly to blame here.
Yes, that's probably.
Oh yeah, there you go. Line 20, line 28, line 28. Oh yeah, sorry, you're right. Line 16 is copying the README.
Yes.
And then, yeah.
All right, so we'll get rid of that. And then line 726 now.
The generators JSON, the executors JSON. Yeah, we don't want those to be copied.
Get them out of there. But I don't see anything for the package JSON necessarily, right? So is that something we can say specifically on the options?
It might just end up in there, and we could maybe exclude it. Like, the trouble is, I don't want to spend too long on this because folks who've tuned in to watch releases will watch us be trying to troubleshoot the TSC executor, which is just not relevant at all. Right. So let's just do this and then see what the effect looks like, and we'll just skip past, because we can always get the package JSON to ignore certain files when it publishes, and we'll just ignore the nested package JSON if it's still in there.
Makes sense.
It is. Yeah, so that's fine. So then if we update your package JSON, actually let's look at the final package JSON, because it will give us clues about what we need in the source package JSON. For example, it has the generators JSON reference that we need. That'll be missing right now.
All right, so this is the actual one, and this is the built one on the right hand side.
Yeah. So we need the generate. Oh, it's already in there. Okay, cool. So we need the typings is there, types is not there. I think they're both respected by TypeScript. That's the only difference between the two. So line 13 types is the only thing missing from your source package JSON.
Okay. So we'll need to get that in, but we will need to adjust the pass on these, I believe, right?
No. So those do live next to that package JSON. Generators JSON does live next to this source package JSON.
Oh, okay.
So then the one thing we want to add in here is a files array to tell NPM about which files we want to publish, because we don't want to publish that nested package JSON, because I think it's just confusing. So let's be explicit about what we want. Let's add dist in here. Yep, and then we'll add README will always be included, so we don't need to specify that, but we could for completeness if we wanted to.
Okay, is that
just the all caps README markdown? Yeah,
cool.
And then let's do a not. So we'll do a exclamation mark dist / package JSON, just so we don't have that one get published.
Makes sense. Okay.
And then we want the generators JSON to be published as well.
Okay, so that is just
generators JSON should be, yeah.
Cool.
And so that should match that. Like, we don't have an executors JSON. If you wanted to future-proof yourself, you could add an executors JSON in that files array, just in case you added one later and were to forget it. But so now, if you could,
I'm moving away from executors generally. So
yeah,
makes
sense. You could test this out by cding into the directory and running npm publish -- dry run, and you'll see which files npm would consider, and that just helps validate that we've set up the files array correctly.
Did you say npm publish or nx publish?
Yeah, npm publish is the same. Like it's just you need to cd into the directory first, cd into packages ts aoc starter, because this is our new package route that we're publishing from, and then publish dry run -- dry run. Yep. So now we'll see the files that it's considering. It's considering the package JSON, the generators JSON, all the stuff in dist source, the README, and no dist package JSON. So that's exactly what we wanted. This is set up how we wanted. So the only thing is you had a bin, didn't you?
I did. Well, that was in the other package.
Oh, in the other package.
So that's okay.
Yeah.
The thing
so we'll need to include that on the other package.
Here, yeah, the thing I'm worried about though is just I think this is incorrect. Is it not? Because that's actually this file.
You're right. Yes. Sorry. These need to be dist / source now. Yeah.
Got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah.
So everything we see here, I think.
Yeah.
You just go to /dist / and for generators, that's actually still there.
Yeah. That's
executors it's a lie.
Yeah. You could remove it maybe for completeness. Yeah.
Yeah. That sounds good. Okay. So this all looks good to me. I like this. Okay. So our build is ready for publishing now.
Yeah. If we wanted to be super clean, we could add an extra step to build where we wrap the TSC stuff and remove that package JSON, or we look up the docs for removing that package JSON, whatever. But again, this is not relevant to the stream.
Yeah.
So
I'm fine with it being as it is right now. So that makes sense. So now let me go to the project JSON for this one. So we have already gotten rid of the publish.
We
Is
just
that
need
kind
to
of
make sure that the Nicholas has pointed out, we need to make sure the generator's JSON content is correct, because now
Oh yeah, good point.
that they contain path references in the generator's JSON. So these need to be dist source as well.
Good
Thanks.
catch, Nicholas.
Merci beaucoup, Nicolas.
This is awesome. We have all these people watching us and fixing stuff for us. Oh, 125 right now by my count. So that's pretty awesome.
Nice.
But yeah, okay. So generators are in. Trying to think. I think that's all set. We do have to do this to the other package. Is it worth it to try to publish this? We already did the npm dry run. Is it worth it to like do anything with NX publishing or NX releasing right now to check it? Or
yeah, we can do. Yeah, we can give it a publish. So so if you go into your NX JSON,
sure.
I strongly imagine you have no NX release config in here yet, which is correct. And so what happens with NX release is it will try its best out of the box to require zero config for vanilla setups like JavaScript packages. And so it will see that certain projects have a package JSON, and it will attempt to be able to version those. So what we could do is we could do a NX release and do a dry run of that and see what it. So we will need release config in here. So you could add release config already, but if you just run in the terminal NX space release.
Do I need to go up a level, or is it?
Yeah, it'd be better to go from the root. Yeah, go from the workspace root.
Cool. So NX release.
And then -- or you can do -d for a shorthand for dry run, or -- dry run, either way. Cool. So because you haven't told it anything, it doesn't know how to get the version or update the version. So it'll prompt you. It will assume you want to imperatively tell it. So if you run this command now, it will ask you, it will tell you what it wants. So it says it's matched 2 projects. So it's skipped over your end-to-end test intelligently. It knows that you're not going to be publishing that. Cool. And now it's asking you what kind of change you want, because you haven't told it any preferences you have for resolving the bump. So you just tell it anything here, because we're just doing a dry run, so it doesn't really matter.
Okay, let's just say major.
You could just say major, yeah. So then if you scroll up, you'll see all this different output around stuff it's resolved. So you can see that it resolved the current version from disk, from the source package JSONs. Again, it's going to assume you're versioning from your source files, because that's the logical default out the box.
Yeah, that makes sense.
And that would have been wrong. That would have been wrong for you at the beginning, because you hadn't moved things. So you can tell NX to not consider the source and go to dist instead. But given we're trending towards you using the source, that it's now behaving correctly already. So it's bumped itself to the next major version, which in your case is 3.0.0.
Right, but it didn't actually change my disk, and that was only because this is a dry run. Is that correct?
Exactly. Okay. Exactly. So as we can, so that what we've done so far is we've managed to prove that NX release is picking up the correct projects already. But what might be if you wanted to, you could specify projects that you want to match against. If you didn't want to leave this open, so we could add a release config in your NX JSON. And I think we'll just do this for the sake of the stream as well, just to show people how you configure this. So if you go into your NX JSON and add a release property at the top level, and there's a projects array, and this is an array of strings, which is any valid matcher that you'll be familiar with from NX Run Many. So you can match by just a straight up name. You can match by tag, colon, and then a particular tag. You can match by a path. You can, for a directory, for example, you can use glob patterns in names or directories. So you can use negation as well. So you can say everything except this. So you have a lot of power in the expressiveness that you can note down here.
Like that? Is that? I guess that would work.
I mean, I don't know what the name of your projects are, but that would include anything that starts with anything, then ends with TSAOC starter. So yes, this should match those 2 projects that you have. Yeah.
So I actually don't even need this one necessarily, but
no, you wouldn't actually, because that ends in E2E. So I imagine you wouldn't need that one.
Yeah. Let me actually just be explicit about it though, because
there's no downside.
Like being clever. I prefer to be explicit over clever when I can.
Yes.
Yeah. Sorry, I'm getting all finger tied.
Yeah, that's right.
Streaming brain. But great. There we go. Cool. So those are our projects. What else do we need to configure here?
So yeah, so far that's changed nothing about the behavior that we have.
Yeah.
So you said you wanted to go with version plans. You said you wanted to go with using the version plans approach, file-based
Yes,
versioning.
I guess maybe this is a discussion to have here too, because it's almost as if we go back to my stream notes. I do want like file-based versioning. I want that though more for my CI/CD pipelines. It's almost like I would like some local strategy for versioning that, like, number one, doesn't touch the packages, and like number two is like reads from the local registry, like gets whatever version that is and like bumps that to whatever. Like I actually don't even care if it's like a major, minor pub or patch. I just need it to be different, and maybe like give it a tag to say latest, so I can at least run against that, if that makes sense.
Yep.
So I guess it's almost like that seems different to me than the file-based versioning. Does that seem fair? Or
It is, but we can override that preference by giving an explicit specifier. We can override your main configuration.
Okay.
So with your
but
particular
in the
desires
NX
here,
JSON, I imagine we'd want to set it up for the file-based.
yeah. So we're going to in the NX JSON, we're going to say version plans. Version plans is camel case. Yeah, it's auto-completing. Version plans true.
True. Nice. Thanks to I don't know if this is John or Max, but thank you. This is helpful.
I don't know why it's duplicated for you.
Yeah, that's not as great. But
I haven't seen that before on my side, but
it may be because I have like multiple versions of NX console right now.
Oh,
so
probably,
maybe
yes.
me. So yeah,
Yes.
sorry, that's on me.
So now if you run that same NX release dry run command again, you fundamentally change things now. The projects you're considering are the same. But so hang on, is it not version plans true?
Oh, I may have not hit save.
Oh, well,
that may be
make a difference.
Yeah,
there you go. So now it's not stopped to ask you for what version you want to do. Now you've told it, I want version plans, but you have no version plans on disk. You have no files to find. So you can see that now it's saying no changes were detected within version plans. So it's been correctly configured to use version plans as the source of truth. You have no version plans. So therefore, when it encountered TSAOC starter, it skipped it because it has no version plan that's relevant that contains that project as a reference.
Killer.
So the way that you would define a version plan is either by hand, because they're incredibly simple files, or you can use our CLI subcommands to help you generate them. So you can run nx release plan, nx space release space plan. And this is going to say that it's found files that have been touched within certain projects to help speed up your plan creation process. It knows those are relevant. So it knows that by default, your packages are versioned in lockstep together. So that's why it's telling you, how do you want to bump the versions of all projects? Because it doesn't need to prompt you individually for the projects because you haven't told it that you're doing independent versioning. So anything you say here will apply to all projects.
So I'll just say
again, this is just an example. Yeah, just say anything. And then it will say, so what changelog message do you want to associate with that change? Because again, it's not going to read your Git commits and get changelog information. So just before you submit this, instead of filling it out in line in the terminal, if you notice in parens there, it says leave blank to open an external editor. So if you just submit that, if you just press enter to submit that, it will open. Now it looks like you're using Vim, but if you have VS Code set or Cursor set or IntelliJ set or whatever as your Git editor, then it will spawn that for you. So you will get just your normal IDE experience. Whatever you'd be doing a Git rebase type stuff with is what will get spawned. So Zach happens to have his configured to Vim or not configured, so it's defaulting to Vim. But basically you get then a full editor to write multi-line, multi-paragraph if you want changelog entries rather than being limited by an inline terminal prompt. So this is quite a useful feature to just not actually write anything there. If you've got anything remotely complex, like if you've got like code blocks to write or whatever, this is just Markdown. You can now just freely write Markdown, multi-line, multi-paragraph, have formatting, whatever you want.
Cool.
So it's quite a useful feature.
Yeah, I'm not very good at Vim. I know how to get out of it usually. That's the main criteria. So I like right quit. right?
You should set your editor environment variable then for your
should.
Git stuff so that it's using
Nano
something else.
at least. Nano is more natural to me.
You've got a single backtick right now, which
I know.
okay.
Let's get rid of that. Delete. There we go.
Yeah.
And now, yeah.
Yeah.
When I watch people like do all the fancy stuff with that, I'm just baffled. Like if you've ever
Yeah.
seen like Primagen, and he actually gives talks about how to use all that stuff. I'm just, it's too much for me. But yeah, cool.
So that actually canceled the version plan creation. I have never tried this with Vim, so I wonder if that is some. You did right quit, didn't you?
I did right quit.
You
didn't
didn't force
WQ.
quit or anything.
I thought that would have worked. I wonder if I should have done like a write out or something along those lines.
I am not sure. That might be a bug with Vim handling. I am not sure about that one. So okay, so just repeat the process and write the message in line. I'll make a note to follow up on that point.
We'll just say example message, because this is just going to write.
We've been going for 50 minutes. Like we were overdue finding a bug. So
yeah,
we've now found
things were going too well.
Yeah.
Okay, so this got written to disk by that. So you said I could use like whatever editor I want. I guess I could also use that as a starting point and just from here.
Exactly. So you could have created this file by hand if you wanted to. It's a markdown file with what's called front matter at the top. So these dash separators. This is front matter. It's basically embedded YAML in a markdown file. This is the exact same syntax that ChangeSets uses. Beach Ball, which is another file-based versioning system from Microsoft, they decided to use JSON. But when I was implementing this, I thought the front matter markdown was kind of a nice intuitive way of doing it, because then you get free editing of markdown underneath, which is what you want to write your changelog entry in anyway.
Right.
So behind the scenes, NX Release creates a default release group for you, because we haven't touched on this yet, but we support the concept of release groups. So for most of the time, you don't need to care about that. But if you have more complex monorepos with different package groups that get versioned independently or whatever, so behind the scenes, that default release group gets created. So that's why you have __ default _ in there.
Right.
If you replace that with the name of any of your packages specifically, it would recognize that you were doing fixed versioning and pull the other packages along with it anyway. So it doesn't really matter if you write a certain package name or if you write default, like _ default. So yeah, that's your major thing got embedded. And then your changelog entry, you can freely write in the file afterwards, because it's just a file on disk ultimately. It gets generated with the name, version plan, and then a timestamp. But you can also call it anything you want. The name is not significant. It just has to be uniquely named within the version plans directory.
Right. So like just this random number here doesn't matter.
It's a timestamp just from whenever you wrote it. That's all it is.
Cool. Makes sense. So let's actually like prep this so that whenever we're done with this, like hopefully this will be one commit. We just push it up as a patch release when it goes out. So we'll just prep it for that. So this is kind of set up now, right? Like this is
so as you can see, it's been created in the .nx directory in a new version plans directory. So if anybody has blindly git ignored their .nx directory, they need to make sure they undo that. With the NX tooling itself, we only generated ignore pattern for the cache and workspace directories.
That actually immediately came to mind as like, I thought we get ignored everything in .nx, but this obviously we don't want to get ignored because we want this pushed up along with that.
We also have workflows for NX Cloud that the agent config is defined in the .nx directory as well. So that you really need to make sure that you specifically only ignore cache and workspace data. You don't want to be ignoring other things. Unless NX adds them, obviously, for you, then you can assume they're correct.
Right. Well, this was, like I said, this was generated a while ago. So let me just make sure. Well, obviously it's not, because
it was at the bottom. I saw it at the git ignore. It was correct.
Okay, cool. Very cool.
Yeah.
Perfect. One thing I want to ask though, James, is I don't see anything. I see versioning plans as true. I don't see anything that said like, hey, we're doing this versioning based off of file based rather than Git history. Is version plans
version plan is our name for this file-based versioning approach. Yeah.
Makes sense.
There isn't an industry standard terminology around this stuff. I describe this as file-based versioning because it's been done by ChangeSets, it's been done by Beach Ball. Change sets was not the first tool to do this, but it's probably the most well-known in the open source community. And so we are another implementation of file-based versioning, where file on disk is the source of truth for the bump and the changelog entry. And to me, I think a good name is a bit like how in Terraform you make a plan to roll out a change to your infrastructure, and then you apply that plan later. We are making a plan to version. But when we commit this plan, we are not versioning. The versioning is the ingestion of a plan and the side effect of applying those changes to disk. But that can happen a month later. That is not happening right now. So we are not versioning now. We are creating a plan to version later. And so that's why I called our concept version plans.
Right.
But that makes none of it is industry standard. It's all made up. But I tried to make it up in the most logical way that I could.
Yeah, that makes sense. Well, let me ask you this, James, because I think with the previous strategy we had, you'll see my version on disk is actually 2.0.0. If we look at my project.json, and we may have to go back in history just to see. Well, I guess we hadn't touched this one yet. In this one, I believe publish must have been calling npm publish behind the scenes. We must have been passing this over.
Publish MJS used to do versioning and publishing in all one step. It's a generated script that NX would generate for you, and it would handle versioning and publishing. So
gotcha.
The less we focus on that, the better, so we don't confuse folks, to be honest. I would say we just delete this and move on from it.
Sounds good.
Because none of it is used, none of it is relevant to today's NX.
I guess the question I was getting at, though, which I think is independent from that, is when we actually do go about inversion. So here's our plan. We're going to be building up our plan over time. I imagine that's going to be like multiple files inside of this directory, right?
It can be, but there's no guarantee. Like when you come to version, you might have only one version plan file that's applicable, or you might have 20. And if you have 20, you're still creating one version. So NX release version will interpret all the version plans and come up with the most appropriate bump. So if you had the same project referenced 3 times across different version plan files, 2 of them were patches and 1 of them was a minor, well, the bump is minor because minor is higher than patch, and therefore the overall bump for that release that you're creating is patch.
Right. That makes sense. The thing that I'm curious
it's the exact same, just to finish that point, it's the exact same thing as if you had conventional commits, and you had 3 commits and 2 of them were fixes and 1 of them was a feat. We will take the feat as the higher one, and therefore you'll do a minor bump. It's the same thing with version plans. If you have multiple that affect a particular project, we'll look at all of them together, consider the highest one, and take that as the bump.
That makes sense. So when we call then NX release, the first step it's going to do is the versioning. And what that will look like is just changing the package JSON. Is that correct?
The first thing it will do is it will resolve the current version, which by default will read from disk. So it'll read 2.0.0. Right. It will then, because you have version plans true, it will then study the version plans directory, ingest all the version plans, find the current project, see if there's a bump or not, and then apply that bump to the 2.0.0 to figure out your final version. And we can run that right now because we can run in dry run. So if we do that right now, we now have a version plan file. So we'll now see that, I can't remember what you put in the end. Was it patch or minor?
I think it was patch in the
So now we'll get 2.0.1 as the version that it'll spit out.
All right, so we'll do NX release.d like this.
Yeah.
Okay, because this will be interesting actually. 2.0.1. Okay, that is what we expected. That's actually not what I want, because
so if you just scroll up, you'll see that it explains all the things I just said. Reading data from package JSON, resolved current version as 2.0, resolved specifier as patch using version plans, new version written. And for the second one, it doesn't need to repeat the process because there's a version together, so it doesn't even need to calculate the version the second time. It just jumps straight to knowing it's 2.0.1.
That makes perfect sense. A small wrinkle in this is that right now, my disk, like the package version I have here, does not actually reflect the version that is published on npm right now. And I would prefer to read from that, but to like keep this, to going forward, keep this up to date. I guess the one thing I could do is just like manually touch it right here, like make this change, and then things would be okay. But I guess maybe just going forward, is there a way to signal to NX release, hey, always read my current version from the registry? Is that possible? How do we do that?
So in the NX JSON, this works with any versioning strategies. If you're using conventional commits or you're imperatively giving it a bump, this is kind of an independent thing from that. So we'll add a version key here because we're influencing the versioning logic. Version plans is a kind of a shorthand which sets a few things behind the scenes. So we're going to be setting a generator options here. And I'm afraid there's no autocomplete here because this is ecosystem dependent. And so the JSON schema can't support dynamically populating this.
Right.
But the option we want is current version resolver in camel case. I'm doing this off the top of my head. So I think this is correct. Current version resolver is registry. And so by default, current version resolver is disk. So if you wanted a hard code disk in there, that would be the same as the default behavior. But you're now saying registry. Right. So it's now going to look up a package of the same name that's in your package JSON. And by default, it's going to look at the latest tag on so there you can see you saw the step
there was actually I don't know if people saw that. There's a little like spinner. I imagine that was like making the network call to
exactly. Yeah. So it resolved the current version as 2.0.2 for tag latest for registry.
That's so cool. That's exactly.
And you can customize that if you were using an Artifactory or something like that internally in your company. You can point it at a different registry, but obviously by default, it's going to look at registry npmjs.org.
Can I try this too? I want it because this might fix the thing I was talking about initially. If I do NX local registry, I believe this will run for me my local registry, which is configured now to use Verdaccio. So now let me do a new terminal. Let me do it like this so it's not so claustrophobic. So release -d. Did that read from npm? No, it read from localhost. That's exactly what I want, actually.
Yeah. So it will, if it detects npm config that's relevant here, it will use it. And so when you run our local registry, when you run our Verdaccio executor, we're actually setting user level npm config for you to set your registry property. And so we default to letting that be your default value that you want. If nothing is set, we use npm. If you've set registry explicitly in your user config, we'll respect that. And you happen to have done that indirectly by running the local Verdaccio instance because our executor does that for you. And when you exit the Verdaccio process, it should clean up that user config. So when you exit the process, it should go back to being npm. Yeah, I saw npm flash up there.
Registry npm.
Yeah.
Yep. Awesome. Okay. I think that actually let's go back to the top level. I think in terms of like setting things up locally, I think we're pretty much there.
We just need to update your other package, right? We need to update the dist location of your other package because right now that's incomplete.
Let's leave that off until we fix that. But yeah, let's hit that for our other package. So that's over here. We need to adjust the package JSON. And the project JSON here. We want to get rid of the publish step because that's just a false signal at this point. We want to use NX release. We don't want to use a special release target. So we do want to
get rid of the markdown copying in assets as well.
Yes. Dist and there we go. I think that's would get us there.
Yep.
Output path, these things
have
to change to.
So we just need to, no, those are correct. They stay the same, right? They'll be put into the output path appropriately.
Well, I think main we still have to adjust, right? Or I don't know. Let's see. So, should we run a build on this one?
Yeah, let's run a build.
Let me go back to this one. We'll just clear it. Let's build, create. Yes. Starter. Okay, so that's going to actually build the other one first and then run it. But let's see where that went. So now we have a dist here. So this is the file I want as my main, I think, right? So I would need to adjust that inside my package JSON for here. That's the
So
wrong package JSON.
I think quite a common convention here is to actually keep the. I mean, I guess you could do whatever you want.
It's weird
really.
because there's a bin. Yeah. But
I mean, there's nothing wrong with it. If you were to use our modern tsconfig project references setup, I think you could potentially have a dist to live alongside a bin and publish both next to each other. But it doesn't really matter, given you can update this bin reference here on line 11. So I don't think it matters particularly. It's a bit like when you have dist source. Like it doesn't really matter in practice.
Yeah. Well, let me just set it to here, so at least these files exist. Because right now I don't think they exist. So we'll just say it's in the dist.
Yeah.
There is a bin. There's also a dist bin. Don't question it.
Yeah. It's fine. So the bin, we won't publish the bin anyway, because we'll do the same thing we did before, where we'll do the files array, and we won't include the bin. The bin contains your TS source, right, in this local directory.
Yes, the bin is operating essentially as my source
that's fine.
file here.
Yeah, that's fine. So yeah, we just won't include that in the files array. So we'll do what we did before, where we'll do.
That's good, because that's not a confusing signal if anyone happens to look inside their node modules. So we'll include the dist.
I think AI was correct there. It was like pre-populating exactly what you wanted. Yeah.
No package and
README will be included by default by npm anyway, but we can include it just for completeness.
Yeah. And then let's see if it knows what to do. Say not.
Dist. You've already done.
Dude, I want to say, oh no, I do want that.
You don't even need this because you're saying explicitly dist, so your bin won't be included. Anything that you've not explicit, you're now dealing with an allow list rather than a block list.
Gotcha. Yeah, I guess so. Without a files array, so before we did have one, it was just everything. But once we have the files array, now we're saying specifically to npm publish, just do these. Okay, that makes sense. Cool. All right, so this is, I think, set up. Let's run another build on that. Cool.
We could cd into that directory and just do an npm publish dry run if we wanted to be 100% sure about the files it's going to send.
Sounds good. npm publish -- dry run. Okay.
Yeah, so package JSON, README, and dist bin contents. Yeah.
That looks like exactly what we want.
What's the warnings we're getting there about our package JSON? If you just scroll, auto corrected some errors in your package JSON. Please run blah blah blah. Removed invalid scripts. Bin scripts blah blah blah. Name was cleaned. What is that?
I don't know.
Is bin an object, or is bin just a path? Oh no, a bin is an object, isn't it? I think so.
I thought so.
Why doesn't it like that?
I don't know. It was saying it was scripts, right? I don't know. I don't understand that. I guess maybe is bin maybe some sugar for like a special script? I don't know. But
I'm just looking at another package that has a bin. Bin is an object with the key of the name of the executable that we're invoking, and then just a relative path. What do you have in your definition again?
Excuse me.
In your package JSON.
Package JSON looks like this. So.
Yeah, that looks correct to me. It's coming from dist, so it would be included.
Yeah.
I don't know what that warning is.
I wonder if we had that in the other one before and we just didn't notice it, but that might be an issue though, because we need that script.
I tell you, I was going to say, could it be in the nested package JSON, the generated one?
Oh, maybe.
But we should be skipping that file though, based on what we wrote. So no, it's not there.
That makes sense.
Yeah, we should be skipping that one. Okay, I don't know. Is the answer?
Okay. Well,
we will find out.
It's just a warning. Let's leave it at that. Okay, cool. So let's go back up to the workspace root.
Unless the bin directory is significant, that's the only other thing I can think of, that maybe the bin directory name is significant, but we'll see. So now we have two projects that are configured appropriately.
Well, let me ask you this though, because this is another blurry spot for me. Before, when I had the publish as a task or a target inside of my project graph, I could make the publish dependent on the build. How do I do that with NX release? Is that, I imagine, probably already set up for us? But I do want to make
So
sure like I'm running a build before
versioning
this
is a
happens.
generator in NX. So that's why you have generator options. So that we're working on a tree, we have dry run. It's manipulating things on disk. So it's a really good fit for a tree. Whereas an executor often is dealing with some kind of task that you want to run. It's a really good fit for the publishing step, but it's not the perfect fit for the versioning step. So for versioning, if you want to run something before you version, we have a pre-version command option under the version option. Alongside generator options, we have an option called pre-version command. And so this is just a shell command. So yeah, exactly like that. So you can have anything you want in it. You could invoke a script. You could invoke just one command in line like this. So that is
I guess
how you...
for me, this doesn't really matter for versioning, right? The way we have things set up, because we are creating a package JSON, but we actually don't like use it. It actually gets ignored.
They're not strictly related, yeah. But this is
Right.
just conceptually kind of nice to just know that once versioning has taken place, you have an asset that's ready to go. Like it could be
Right.
sent to the registry. Once it's been stamped with the new version, it's all built and it's ready to go.
That makes sense. Okay. I guess the question I had was like, this is nice. I could see this being relevant for other projects. So it's good we highlight it. But for my project, I don't know if it's needed. It's almost more like we just want to make sure before we publish it, like we do run the build. So that's, we don't accidentally publish like whatever happened to be in the package/dist directory at the time. Is that already set up for us, or do I have to configure that?
No, there's no assumptions based on what you want to do before you take certain release actions.
That sounds good.
So yeah, this is the way that you would kind of idiomatically wire this up. You technically could set up a depends on relationship, because for publishing, we're implicitly creating a target for you behind the scenes.
Okay.
But I would say let's just leave it for like this for now, because
okay,
kind of
that makes sense.
Simpler in config.
Yeah. So whenever we run NX release, it goes version changelog publish, and we hooked into that. So before we even do the version, we run this, and that's going to set us up. Okay. I like that. That works. Okay. So that's all works. Let's go back to top level. I think locally we are set up, because as we saw, like as long as I'm using Verdaccio, we're going to go over to there. We're going to read from the registry. So it's going to pull from whatever I'm set up with there. I actually like that release strategy, so that, as we're going through, we are actually putting stuff into the version plans. And like, yes, it'll be a patch release. So maybe I'll do like 5 of them as I'm working, and that's fine. That doesn't matter. I guess one thing is I just want to make sure that has the latest tag on it. Have we set that up already, James, or is that?
So we haven't done any publishing to your local Verdaccio yet, right? So the latest tag is going to be the assumed published tag, but we haven't done any publishing yet. So
okay. I just want to make it so it's set up so that when we do publish, it does get the latest tag. If that
the only thing I wanted to say now was I don't think for your particular like desires here, where you want to have this different approach for local use versus how you actually want to publish things. We're kind of reaching the limits of what static config can achieve, because you are talking about quite a lot of dynamism and stuff. And so a really important thing about NX release, in contrast to other tools, is that we have a first-class programmatic API. So you can run NX release in Node scripts and compose it together and make things conditional and do all kinds of things that you want to do based on your own preferences. You can add extra steps, you can skip things, whatever. So I think for your needs, we want to lean on the programmatic API. And I would emphasize to people, I don't think the programmatic API is just reserved for super advanced cases. It's just for when you want to be quite explicit about what actions you take when you do releases, because you can ultimately replicate exactly what NX is doing out of the box, but in a script, and then all of your colleagues can see that script. And so rather than you having to create a README which says run this command, then do this, you're just invoking a script that is clearly documented in line and stuff. So honestly, I reach for the programmatic API almost every time I use versioning, because we're still letting NX release do all the heavy lifting. All those features we just saw are still done by NX, but we can compose them together in a script that's transparent to everyone.
Is it in the dev kit?
It's in NX/release. So the main NX package.
Oh, I see.
NX/release is the entry point. And we're going to import release version, release changelog, release publish.
Cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
So I would say we'll set up a function that like an async function and as a wrapper for everything, because these are all async functions. So you can call it whatever you want, main or release or anything.
Yeah.
And yeah, invoke the function down the bottom somewhere or make it an iffy.
Yeah, something like that.
So if we just focus on one at a time, we just do release version first of all.
Yeah, let's get rid of the other two so it's not confusing.
Yeah,
but
one of the things I tend to do in every NX release script, and this is on the docs, by the way, this exact thing. So if you go to nx.dev and that manage releases page, it's referenced on there.
Oops, nx.dev, NX release. There we go.
If you scroll down, there's an example of using the Programmatic API. Further.
Keep going. There it is.
So you'll notice like one really common thing is to be able to run in dry run. So in this example, we're just setting up yargs as a very small CLI on top of our script so that we can toggle things like the version. So if we wanted to imperatively overwrite the version with something we know, or if we want to toggle verbose or dry run, we can. So to be honest, I would use this exact snippet, this exact code snippet, this whole file as the basis of your release script.
Cool.
Because it has all the moving parts we need.
So just grab it all.
Just grab all of it, yeah.
Yeah, cool. So we'll grab that all and we'll dump it here.
Yeah.
I don't have yargs installed, so I'll need to do that.
NX depends on yargs, so you do have yargs in your dependency tree. But yeah, for completeness, you could add it to your workspace's dev dependencies, but you can just import yargs. It's in there.
Is it star from yargs? Is that how?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Star as yargs from yargs.
Right. As yargs.
Depending on your TypeScript setup, that is. So I think the version, you might need a TS expect error or a TS ignore on the version one. It depends on the TypeScript setup you have. Do you have ES module interop enabled? Do you know?
I don't think so. In my base TS.
I have a feeling there's certain versions of yargs where the types are also wrong. So I think that version one is basically just a misleading type error.
What was it? The interop?
Don't enable it. If you've not got it now, this will confuse things even further. That will change the behavior of TypeScript across all of your projects. So yeah, let's not go down that rabbit hole.
So we'll just say
just a TS ignore above line 6.
Oh, okay.
Or that.
That's my preferred way of telling TypeScript to shut up.
I mean, you're getting rid of all of the TS completion on that, but yeah, I think the types are slightly wrong on the yargs.
Gotcha.
It depends on the yargs version you're pulling in, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that only applies to the CLI bit. So now, if you were to, I would just double check we're parsing everything correctly. So we've got dry run enabled by default, which is just how I prefer to set up release scripts, because obviously publishing is a destructive action. It's hard to take back if you've done it. So that's why I like to make my release scripts dry run by default. So we could just run this script now. We could run this custom publish.
Okay. So we could just say TSX. We're in tools. It's scripts / custom.
Yep. So this should.
Should I pass the -D? Let me cancel out of this.
No, we're in dry run by default. But you don't seem to have TSX installed. Do you have TS node maybe? Or
okay. Yeah, I could do that. Let's do TS node. There we go.
So it's exiting your pre-version command that you did. Everything else is the same, and now it's running a publish in dry run mode for you.
Cool.
So it's run the entire thing
I
end to
see.
end.
So even though we didn't have that set, we just kind of had that set as part of the script.
Default true is on line, whatever it is, line
Oh,
17.
I see. Yeah.
So that's why I was saying I prefer to set these up. So that's why the docs say that as
makes
well.
sense.
I prefer to have default true. So
you said
would
that
have to-
before too. It just passed through me,
worries.
and I just realized it now. Yeah. Okay.
No worries.
that makes
So
sense.
you have to explicitly say dash dry dash run equals false
and then
to run this.
okay. Yeah. Cool.
So then
Cool.
all of our publishing succeeded because we passed that dry run flag through to every subcommand. So essentially what we've done now is we've created a tiny little wrapper around NX using all of the same features that we had before.
We have complete control because we can
Exactly.
see everything. So I could do something in the middle here between these two things if I wanted to.
Or for example, you could say, if not CI, don't run release changelog or whatever. Like you now have control to make advanced code paths that are open to you in scripting, but you're still letting NX do 99% of the work. And so that's why the programmatic API, I think, is such an important feature of NX release that other tools don't let you do. Like they will often have 1,000 configuration options to let you have some of this expressiveness. But you can achieve so much by having all of these things be exposed as a programmatic API as well. So these are the exact same functions that we are leveraging behind the scenes when you run the NX CLI. We're invoking these same functions. Just
in general, I love the idea of scripting for config rather than a JSON file. So I really, really like this. It makes things so much more expressive. It opens things up so much more. It's still nice. It's one of those things where I feel like this is like having a 100-piece tool set right now. It's actually an infinite. It's Turing complete at this point, right? Like I can do anything I want. It's still nice to have the wrench though. Sometimes like it's still nice to just have NX release.
Yeah. If you didn't have this requirement to have a slightly different workflow locally versus on CI, I wouldn't have necessarily suggested this, but you do have that requirement. So you're into the territory already where we're just going to end up with really complicated NX release config for questionable benefit versus if we just have a script that can handle your different scenarios for you.
Right. I actually think and this was what I was getting at is I think like the requirements I had for local publishing and also end-to-end publishing, I think they're actually all met already. And they could be met with one simple config. The only caveat being just make sure that Verdaccio is running locally. And then everything kind of fits in, I think, unless I'm missing something. So yeah.
So one thing we do with modern NX when you generate a library setup that's got publishable stuff in with Verdaccio as in the mix, we set up a global setup script for Jest for you, which handles running NX release against that Verdaccio as part of your setup.
Right. I actually think I saw that here inside of like the end-to-end thing that was set up for me for this. Inside of the Jest config, I see inside of here, there's the
start local registry. Yeah.
Yep. So it's starting that for us. So
let's we better have a look at that file because that will probably contain reference to your old publishing logic.
Oops. So here's that.
Yeah, so it's gonna invoke the local registry to spawn Verdaccio, and then it's gonna run your old target on line 20 plus. It's doing your old run many. So this is what we would replace with your new script. Yeah.
Well, let me ask you this, James. So that script we have is using the one we just set up. Where did that go? Go over here for it. The custom publish, we called it.
Yeah.
So this is using pieces from NX release to write our own script. Is there any way to just say to use NX release? So when we call the CLI, like when we say NX release here on the CLI, it just, instead of having to do TS node, we could just set NX release to just say, hey, just instead of doing the default behavior, run this script. Is that a thing or no?
No, because I think that's blurring the lines too much between. Yeah,
that's fair.
Like NX release is basically the opinionated CLI. You have created your custom CLI. Like
gotcha.
That's the distinction.
Gotcha. I guess I could make it if I really wanted to, just because I love having things on the project graph. I guess I could make it where I call this script inside of a task, inside of like right here. I don't know if that makes sense or not either, but
No, and it makes sense to have it where your current script lives, inside the setup for jests, because that's where you're spawning Vidaccio. So that's the point at which we know Vidaccio is ready. So in your start local registry TS, we just want to straight swap your old run many publish with the
I see.
new invocation of your script. Like this is
Gotcha,
where we're going to invoke TS node, my whatever it was called, publish, custom
TS
publish.
node.
So at the moment you're invoking NX. You're resolving NX on line 19. So we don't want that. Yeah.
So
it's going to be
here we actually want TS node, right? And then here we would pass the additional.
I'm not sure
option.
what exec file sync. I'm not sure is even what we want. Is it? We just want exec sync here.
Gotcha.
I'm not sure why that was exec.
Just pattern matching at this point.
Yeah.
It's just like, okay, let's replace NX with that. But that makes sense. So exec sync. I forget the exact. Oh, we can just pass it in as a string.
Yeah, it's just a straight command. We can do at that point.
That seems easier. Let's actually just copy it. Whatever I did the line before. Copy there.
And so this is where what's going to happen is we're going to kick it. You probably want an MPX for TS node, I think, in front of your on line 20, your command. I think you want MPX TS node, so it will resolve it.
Oh, I see.
Line 19 you can delete. We don't need to resolve the path of NX anymore.
I was seeing that as you were saying what you were saying.
Yeah.
And I was getting confused, but that's what you were saying, right? Okay,
yeah.
cool.
And then what we're going to do is we're going to leverage the fact that on the little CLI script that you have, we can support passing in a custom version, because here for your Vidaccio testing, you don't care what the version is.
Yeah.
And so, well, there's a few ways we can do it. Either you can have a dedicated script for this local Vidaccio publishing, because that's the great thing, obviously, with the Programmatic API. We could have two different scripts entirely that we invoke for different use cases. Or we can enhance your CLI to take into account what scenario you're in. Because, for example, when you're doing local Vidaccio publishing, we don't want to generate a changelog. That's not relevant at all. We don't want to git commit. We don't want to git tag. We don't want to update your package JSON even, do we? We don't want to punch the version out to your package JSON. So I would say it's so different that you might even consider having a different script just altogether, which only invokes versioning and publishing, and does them in a different way than we will do on CI/CD.
Right. That makes sense. I think, what if we said, let's just use NX release itself for CI/CD, and let's use custom publish here just for my local setup. Is that?
I would say almost the opposite could be true, because given we're doing so much less, what we could do is imperatively pass arguments to NX release that kind of toggles off behavior and only versions and publishes potentially. Or is that going to be confusing for people? I don't know. So we could do it either way. Like I personally would be in favor of two different scripts here, because it's just super clear. One is what we will call one local Vidaccio publishing or whatever, or like local publish, and we'll call the other one CI publish. And it'll just be so clear.
I like that.
What each, or local release even, or which it doesn't matter what the name is.
Yeah, and we'll call this like CI publish. And we'll give them the same starting point, so they're both the same.
Yeah, I mean we're quite a ways off from the local one being accurate at this point, but yeah, they can have the same starting point. So let's just finish off the local one. So in the local one, super easy first step is we do not need release changelog at all. We can just delete that function. Doesn't need to be invoked.
Bye. That's nice.
And that means we don't need the return value from release version. We could log them if we wanted to, but like they're no longer in use. Line 27, we don't even need the return value from release version because we're not
giving that. So it's not a miss signal.
Yeah. And so then the idea with the local publish is that we're not going to be committing or updating package JSONs at all, right? So
excuse me.
Well, so we need to update package JSONs because we need to publish them somewhere. So we can't not update the package JSONs because of the property I said where on disk we need to send them out somewhere. So this is it's kind of a slight downside of versioning, with like the versioning your source, because we need to publish those out to the registry, even though the registry is localhost in this case. So I haven't actually built this specific scenario out before, So we can obviously we can update the references, and you just make sure not to. We can make sure they're not auto committed, but you can also just be careful not to accidentally commit them as well. We could add to the end of the release script like a reversion where we revert the changes from the package JSON down the bottom. Once the publish is successful, we revert the changes to the package JSON each time.
So the changes to the package JSON are going to happen in this function call.
Exactly. Yeah. Exactly.
Okay. So, and there's no way to just tell it not to change.
Well, it has to, because publish is working off disk. So like that's the thing I said at the beginning, where you can look at disk and see what is being published. So if we don't update the file on disk, we will publish the wrong thing. Like we need to keep updating that version to be able to publish to Verdaccio. The only other solution is that Verdaccio gets truly nuked every time. Because obviously it only matters if your version isn't changing if you've got an old version present. Whereas when Verdaccio first starts up, it's got no cache, and so it just is fresh. It doesn't matter what the version is.
So it's almost like what we need to do is say like maybe before like release version, we just say const original version equals something like this. And then after publishing, we need something that says like revert package JSON, and then pass it like that original version just to put it back. And that way, this will be like essentially a no op. It'll on disk, it will change so that we can have it for the publish. But by the time the script completes, we should be back to where we were. Does that make sense? Or is this?
Yeah, we could do that. We also actually, so I said we don't need the return value of release version. The return value of release version will actually give you the old versions.
Oh, perfect. So we don't need this.
No,
that's good, because that was nasty.
But so what I was thinking was we'd just literally run a git command. We could just git reset those paths to the package JSONs potentially.
That makes sense. So like,
but if we let's just get to the end of this process, commit what you've got right now, and let's just see the problem in action to just make it concrete. Because we've been talking a bit hypothetically for a while now. So I was just, maybe if we just get to the problem and then start solving it, just so folks are all caught up with what we're doing and what we're running into.
Sure.
So let's just run Verdaccio, actually do a local publish, and then let's run into the problem that we then need to solve. So you have 13 uncommitted changes right now. Maybe let's just commit those as like a work in progress. Let's see where we're at.
Yeah, we do need to change this real quick, right? Just so this is local.
Yeah, exactly. And
then let's do, like you said, save, and let's.
So we need to pass to local publish. We need to pass the bump that we're going to do. So let's just give it patch as like the version. So I think the CLI is expecting -- version as its argument. Remember, this isn't the NX CLI anymore, so we need to match whatever it's in your yargs config in your script. So I think it's a version, yeah. So -- version, explicit version specified to use.
Cool. So like that is that.
Yeah, that should work.
All right. Let's drop a git commit here.
We might need to add an object to exec_sync to inherit the environment and the standard IO you want to inherit, so we see it being printed what it's doing. So
say that again, James.
After the string, let's pass an argument into exec_sync. The second argument of exec_sync is an object with configuration. So we can say standard IO inherit exactly, and then
so that's why we'll see the results of the script. Okay.
Yeah. I think environment inheritance should happen automatically. Env is like equal to process env. But we could set it explicitly if we wanted to. Just the parent process env gets passed down.
Sounds good. Like that right there.
Yeah.
Looks good. All right. So I'm just going to call the commit.
But anyway,
pinning for now. There we go. Cool. And now we can run NX local registry, right?
No, so we would run your tests, right? Where this is during your end-to-end test setup.
I see. So this is we'd be calling.
We could replicate what we've just written in the end-to-end test setup manually if you wanted to. We could run Verdaccio manually and then call npx tsnode tools, etc.
Okay.
But But this is part of your setup for these end-to-end tests, right? So you could run NX E2E, TS AOC starter E2E. That's what I thought we were.
Yeah. We could do that. I guess the way I was thinking about it was like, regardless of whether the end-to-end tests are using it, right now our project JSON, whenever we run NX local registry as from this thing, we're doing. I guess we're not doing that. We're running the executor.
Yeah, all that's going to do is start Vidasio and update your npm config in the.
Okay, I see. Okay, I was confused then. I thought this was running that script, but it's not. No. It's actually just running the executor. So yeah, let's actually run. So we want to run the end-to-end target of this project, right?
We can start with the imperative one if you want. We can start local registry in one terminal and then run the script in another. Let's just do that basic case.
Let's do that. So we'll do NX local registry. Go in another.
We're starting
terminal.
To go over time here now. Just checking that you realize.
I know. Do you have a hard stop here?
No, I don't.
Okay. I don't believe I do. Let me check my calendar real quick. Just to know.
Oh, Zach left.
I'm not Yuri. I'm still accidentally toggled. Sometimes that happens. I was going to my other monitor here. Let me get this back on.
It seems like Yuri's hacked the stream now. That's what's happened.
Yuri, get away.
Stop. Zach was taken away and Yuri's face appeared.
Yuri, no. All right, let's see. Yes, I have no hard stop. Okay, so we're fine on that. I've lost the monitor. I'm going to go away for a second again, though, James. Give me 1 second.
Yeah. It's getting very warm in my room, so I'm going to turn on my AC while he's away.
I'm coming back. To get better wires is what it is. I have like this USB on my mic that if I ever accidentally bump it, things go bad. And it's happened.
Right.
So we go ahead and present screen again. Voila. Okay. So where were we? We were going to run. We have the local registry.
Yep.
We want to run npx
TS node,
then tools, scripts.
Yeah.
The local publish.
Yep. This will be a dry run by default.
See what all happened here.
We'll just see whether our patch came through. Yeah, our patch came through, no problem. And so it does actually say that the patch was from version plans. I wonder if our override actually took effect. No, we didn't pass in an override, did we? Not.
I don't believe so.
So yeah,
no,
let's just try running that again, but this time specifying -- version equals.
Okay, let's do that. So we'll say -- version equals patch.
No, something else. We know patch is coming from the version plan file, just to make 100% sure.
Version equals minor. So that's starting here.
Yep. So now it's bumped to 210 instead of 203. So
perfect.
Still getting the current version from registry, but then we've overridden the preference for version plans here, which is what we want to be able to do in your end-to-end tests. We want to just be able to bump the package as we see fit. So that all seems good to me. So we could try it out. We could actually just publish to your Vidasio, remove the. So we could add -- dry run equals false to your script.
Dry run equals false.
And so obviously, yeah, we didn't have the changelog step there anymore because we removed that entirely from the script. So we have no reason to do it when we're doing it locally. So now that we've done dry run false, you should see a git diff.
Yes.
And the git diff will be just your versions being changed.
Yes. So that is what we expected. That's not necessarily what we want, right? So That's
for your local workflow, it's not really what you want. So we could add to the script once the publisher's completed, just to revert those packages. Now, there's a few ways we could do this. We could just do a simple git reset and pass like a pattern for any package JSONs to be reset.
Yeah.
That's probably the simplest way. There's all kinds of advanced ways you could do it. You could create an NX project graph, get the return value from release version for all the packages that were modified, iterate through the graph, find the package roots, and specifically do like manipulate those files with the version, like flip them back again. But I think probably just for this purpose,
let's just do git reset.
Yeah.
I think the obvious downside here is like if there's anything else in the git or in the package.json that was touched, we're going to blow it away. But like we'll not worry about that here. So we'll just like exec sync git reset. How do we? What's the say like only do it for certain files? I don't know.
I think you can pass git reset a path, and I'm hoping you can therefore pass it a pattern. But this is the kind of thing where I would turn to Cursor or Claude directly or OpenAI or whatever to just ask it.
Yeah.
Hey, are you using Cursor or are you using Code?
No,
I can't see because of the live thing.
I'm just using Copilot. So this is where I'm still old school, I guess. I still Google this crap.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if it supports packet. I think you need git reset head and then the path. Git reset package JSON. So in theory, you can do git reset. Basically that. Yeah. In theory, that works. Don't know if people are like screaming at their screens right now thinking we're idiots, but
I'm not seeing anything in the comments yet. A lot of people I think watch these after the fact, so we'll probably have people screaming later on. This is what I hit. I don't think it's particularly helpful.
Yeah, git checking out should be the same conceptual thing as git reverting. So you can see git revert commit hash. We're saying head for the commit hash and then the file name. So that should work. It should work just fine. It's just about whether the pattern matching is supported or not. So just try it. Just run it in your console directly. Like we already have the git diff. So just take that command, run it in your console, and let's see if it reverts.
Just the git reset head.
Yeah.
And then
the pattern for the package.
Package. Oh,
this is a good test because you have 3 diffs, and like we should only see 2 of them go away.
Yeah, let's see.
So it's a good test because the script itself shouldn't be. Okay.
That didn't work.
That did not work.
Okay. Set head. Stage changes after the reset.
Just try one of the paths explicitly. Just copy because I imagine the pattern matching is just not supported. Unless we need to wrap it in quotes because your shell is doing something with it. It's potential.
It's possible. Yeah, that didn't work either. So.
Really?
Yeah,
that's surprising.
We still have 3. I'm assuming. Let me try. I've had some issues with like this not updating. No, that's fine. Let's try that. No, still.
Okay, maybe we do need to go the git checkout approach.
Yeah, I think so. Checkout. And so instead of here, the hash, we can just use head, I imagine, right? Head. Then.
So yeah, git checkout definitely supports pattern matching. So git checkout and then -- and then the pattern matching */ package JSON apparently should work. I just finally asked my AI model.
Nice.
That's what it said. It doesn't mean it's correct. Oh, we found all package JSONs.
Oh no.
Okay. Maybe let's use what packages */ package JSON instead.
Yeah, good call.
That's surprising because that's not tracked by Git. So I guess it's interesting. It errors instead of saying like just skipping them, which is interesting. Your generated package JSONs were in there as well.
Yeah,
that's annoying.
Package / / dist.
Sandy's pointed out git restore, which is a command I always forget exists. That is a good shout.
Oh, nice. Thanks, Sandy.
So what is the syntax for that? Apparently that supports the same syntax. Maybe it will have the same issue. It's just this. Just the you don't need the head. Just git restore star. You don't even need the dash dash. Just git restore and then the pattern.
Stars / package.
Yeah.
Because now we don't need to care about the rest, right?
Maybe.
Let's find out. Nope, we definitely.
No, it's the same. It's the same issue. That's annoying.
And that's
there's probably an argument to git restore to like not error on ignored stuff. Git
just
restore
force.
help.
I bet there's a force. What is this that it does not like? I found.
Sorry, I'm not even looking. I'm now reading the help section.
It's
of
fine.
Git restore.
I trust you. I trust you. I'm going to try to like just
files.
dash force while you're doing that. Nope, it doesn't like that. Yuri, we're trying to just get undo or revert anything in the Git, anything not committed to Git yet, but only for specific files. So only for our package JSON. So we want to like version so that when we publish, like the right thing goes out, but then we want it to like
we're matching on package JSON files that are not tracked by Git, and it's blowing up on them instead of skipping them, which is kind of weird.
Yes.
But yeah, obviously this has taken longer than if we just had written the command out by hand. But yeah, the whole point, we wanted to make this kind of future-proof. If you added more packages in the future, that it would continue to work. Can I stop it blowing up on files not tracked by Git, e.g. in node modules? Come on, Claude, what do I pay you for? Oh, okay. I've got a command for you, a nice explicit one. You using git ls files
okay.
to give you the files that you're actually tracking.
I
put it in Slack because I don't. Does StreamYard have a chat? Oh, it has a private chat. Sorry, I should have put it in there.
That's fine. Let me just make sure I'm not leaking anything. But okay, got the command here. I'll put my screen back up here in just a sec. There we go. Back to here. I linked my calendar. That's all right. That's not that important. Okay, so paste it in, git restore. Very clever, I think. Yay!
That worked. Okay, yeah.
Oh, yeah. All right, get out of there. Let's go back to actually getting some stuff done. Local publish. Boom.
Yep.
That looks good. Let's try it now. Let's make sure Verdashio is running. I guess that's like, this is one of the things that would be great to have like that infinite task RFC in so that we could just be sure like, hey, make sure this is running, please.
Yeah. We'll explore the ramifications for release for sure once that's in.
Yeah, that would be awesome. All right, so let's do minor. We don't need let's just go ahead and do it. Try release false.
Yep. So now we're up to 2.2.0 because in Verdashio we had 2.1.0 already.
Right.
And either your Git is not refreshed properly or that last bit didn't work.
Let's see.
Could you just oh sorry, because it staged the changes. The restore didn't work. So we need to stop NX release from staging those changes automatically. So if you unstage those changes, Git restore hasn't operated on those.
Gotcha. How do I unstage? Is that
on VS Code? You just the minus. There's the minus on VS Code.
Well, yeah, but I'd want to do that inside.
Yeah. In NX release, we can tell it not to stage the files in the first place.
Oh, okay. How do we do that?
If you go into the local publish script,
that would be,
and then go into the version step.
version
And
step.
then
Okay.
and then do stage changes false.
False. Hey, that's even nicer. I thought we'd have to do like something in here that was like exec sync on
No,
stage.
you just get NX release to not stage them in the first place. By default, it thinks it's getting ready for you to commit those things. So it stages them after the release process and then would commit them after the changelog process by default. But you can get them to commit after the version process if you want, or not commit at all. But yeah, there you go. That's worked.
Beautiful. I like it.
Cool.
All right. So now we have a simple script we can run whenever I want to push out a local release. I do have to make sure Verdaccio is running. It would be nice if we could do some things there. I don't care about that so much. I'm going to count that as a win.
Yeah.
So we're just going back to our stream notes. I think so. Like the end-to-end testing, I think is pretty much set up. I think this is just a matter of,
we just need to make sure you're setting dry run false on that end-to-end setup local
Let's
registry.
make sure we're doing
just the exact same command you just ran locally, basically.
Right. So this is start local registry. Yeah, I mean that's just what I'm running here, right? So that would be, I guess,
inside of start local registry TS. We have the command already. We just need to update it to make it match what you just ran.
Let's see. So inside of
start local registry TS, we added it down the bottom.
Yeah.
So we just need to make sure you're passing dash dry run equals false.
Gotcha. Okay. Yeah, the levels are.
Now this is exactly the same thing you ran locally, except we're setting a patch version. It doesn't really matter what you set in this version,
right?
Because you're just pushing something out to be. Well, actually, sorry, that's not true. So it depends on what you're testing. So some end-to-end tests for packages need to know what version is being published in order to reference it later in a test, for example. So it just depends on if there's a few different ways you can have the NX repo does this, for example, where we capture the version that we're publishing in order to use it later in an environment variable, things like that. So it depends what your end-to-end tests are actually doing. But obviously you can, this is just a registry. So you can do things like npm view and pass the package name and it will grab the latest from your registry, which happens to be Verdaccio. So you could capture the actual version you published in an environment variable to use later in your end-to-end tests if you wanted to. Because right now, obviously, your version is dynamic. It's based on just one patch more than whatever the current is, and over time, the current will change. The latest will change.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, for right now, this is all you need to be up and running and reference the code in your end-to-end tests.
Right. That's awesome. Okay. Let me go ahead and run that. I'm pretty sure. I'm pretty sure I just have like the standard like boilerplate end-to-end tests here, but let's do TS AOC starter ETE, and just curious to see how this runs. I imagine it's just going to go through exactly what we had seen. Yep.
Yeah, so it spawned Verdaccio again. Obviously, you were running Verdaccio already, so now this has spawned a second Verdaccio on port 4874 instead of 4873 because 4873 was taken.
Right.
So you're trying to run at E2E. So you're trying to run it based on the E2E tag.
And so we
would need to tell NX release to publish to E2E instead of latest, which is fine. We can do that. So we can update your local release script.
Tag or
so no, remember this is your CLI that we're invoking, not NX. So we have no argument to handle.
Oh, I see.
That. So we need to go to local publish.
And here inside of the options here.
Yeah. So we could add like a dis tag option or something, whatever you want to call it.
Option. Yeah. Option. And here we could say, I don't know, should we just call it tag?
That's fine. Yeah.
And then type string default. Say latest, but then up in, so because when we do locally, we probably want to just use latest. What we want to do here, we want to say -- tag equals E2E. This will publish with the E2E.
And then you need to make sure you use that option when you're configuring release publish in the script in local publish TS.
Say that again. Sorry.
Right now you've set a CLI argument, but you're not doing anything with the value.
I see.
You just need to pass it into release. You're in the wrong script. You're in CI publish right now.
Thank you. There we go. Okay, so inside
you need to do something with the option. So in release publish on line 43.5, we want to pass tag and set your option. Tag. Yeah.
Beautiful. All right. Let's hit it there. Let's see if that works.
Now you can see in the output with tag E2E. So looks like your E2E tests have some other things going on.
Yeah,
There
I think
was
so.
looks like a different test is using latest, and I think we made one test happy and one test unhappy.
Yeah, I think so. I think we can fix that. But and here's like
But we can see how, like, this is a release stream, obviously, so we can see how we made the release target the dist tag E2E instead of latest. So
yeah,
I think
yeah,
you
yeah.
might have some specific issues with your E2E tests,
Right.
potentially.
Well, there was waiting for some interactivity, which I've set up to like be
Okay.
required. So and that's like stuff that's specific to this project. I don't think
Yeah.
that
It looks like
interesting
you're
for
trying to
others.
require a package JSON that's moved potentially as well in one of your tests by the look of it as well.
Yeah, let's
Maybe.
see. Can I find package
Like
JSON?
you're an extra level of nesting now, I think. So you just your require of package JSON needs to have an extra dot slash in it inside of the dist bin, I
Right.
think.
Require.
So that's why we have end-to-end tests, so we can catch these kind of issues.
Yeah.
It's probably
That's actually nice.
a legit failure in this
That
case.
is, yeah. I think it absolutely is. Because that's like something that's reading off of that when I'm setting up the actual package. But there we go. Okay. So that gave us some error there, but let's see.
We're getting some interactivity on a create NX workspace invocation, which definitely seems a bit wrong. So you're trying to run with latest sometimes and with E2E sometimes, which is.
Let's take a look at that. I don't want to get too far in the weeds with this. I think like the main thing to get is like, yes, I can run E2E tests right now. They are failing, but it's probably not interesting to go through and solve them on stream. Let me just see. So here's where we say at E2E. I bet in this one we say like at latest somewhere. Find at latest. No.
Is there another? Is there a create NX workspace invocation happening? Maybe we're not forwarding the tag.
Probably. I believe so. Inside of here, we're doing create NX workspace, and then we're getting the version from the package JSON's version.
Okay, that seems.
It's weird, yeah. It was one of those things. I had set this up to make it work, if that makes sense. It was a very pragmatic thing, but
create workspace. How is that invoking create NX workspace though? Where's that coming from?
It's create workspace is coming from here.
Okay. Does it have an argument for the dist tag? I think that's what's.
I don't know. Let's see.
Because I think create workspace is. Well, I'm not sure where that call is coming from for create NX workspace. Again, we're kind of digging into the nature of your end-to-end test rather than releases. So, and we're already 25 minutes over. So maybe.
Yeah. Let's skip that. Let's mark that as done, because I think like the release part of it is done. Like we
would just need to just make sure you're referencing the packages accordingly in the test. And we changed the structure of your packages as well, so there could be side effects of that. We know it's not like we had a passing state in between. We made quite a few changes in one go.
Right. So I'm happy with marking that one off. I think like file-based versioning is set up. We did the NX JSON.
Yep.
We have the things working. So this one is set. I think the last thing to do would just be to set up our CI/CD pipelines, and this one would just be like maybe we can hand wave over this a good bit. I think we probably have something here inside of. Actually we don't. So I think this would just be a matter of like running the NX generator to just like set up like a pipeline, right?
Yep.
Well, do you remember what that is offhand? I think it's like NXG. Is it CI
dash workflow? I think, or something like that.
Workflow. There you go. I'll just set it for GitHub and call it CI. Cool. There's our YAML file. That is nice.
All of these commands going to be passing for you. the test lint build, are they all passing for your repo right now?
Yes, well, test does not, just because like what we had seen. Well, I guess E2E.
Yeah, E2E is not, but
E2E would not. Yeah, but these ones should.
maybe try running it.
Yeah, let's try it. So NX run many st targets equals lint test. All. Oh, we do have some failures in the lints. The tests do work though. I wonder. It's just lint TS AOC starter.
You got double L there.
Thanks. It's like a llama, a yint. No empty function. Ooh, what is that? Actually, don't know.
It's trying to lint your dist. You might need to update
that makes sense.
ESLint ignore file. Now that you have localized dists, if you go to your root level ESLint ignore file.
So node modules, and then it would also be packages.
Or you could just add // ///dist.
Okay.
To be honest.
There we go. Let's try that now.
So you're no longer hitting that weird code path. You're now hitting a legit source, like a config file. But this rule seems to have been is no longer available. This might be down to like TypeScript ESLint version changing. So maybe was that a rule? Was an error being thrown at runtime, or was the rule missing? Error while loading, cannot read properties of undefined reading. I think it's an option of that one changed. Can you try disabling that that rule and see if that helps?
Sure.
It might be coming from one of the NX configs of an old version.
Yeah, would that be like
the
root file, the base one?
Yeah.
Cool. So we just do.
You can see if it's set. If you can see if it's set explicitly in your file anywhere.
No, I don't see it.
No. Okay.
So we'll need to do a new override for.
You don't even need a new override. You can just add it to one of the existing ones. Just the one that matches all your files.
Gotcha. So that would be.
Maybe add it to the TypeScript one because it's probably.
Yeah, this one right here.
Yeah.
So we'll say paste off. There we go.
Cool.
Run it for everything. Still have.
That's a lint. That's an actual lint error now, though.
Yay. What is it not like? The
TS lib is missing.
Oh. Let's just hit fix on that. Lint create. Yay.
Cool.
I like not having to think about stuff. That's very nice. Okay.
The only thing you haven't run is build, but I think we ran that earlier, so it's probably still working just fine.
Yeah, I would think so. Cool. So that's set up. I have things. So now,
are you using PMPM, by the way?
I believe so. Let me see.
Okay.
What do we have here?
Just because you're using MPX all the time, I just wasn't 100% sure. Okay, cool.
Yeah, again, muscle memory for that.
Yeah.
Like I'm still there. What is it? Is it PNPX or is it just?
You can do just straight PMPM NX as the resolution.
Oh, gotcha.
Or you can do PMPM exec NX. I think is it exec in the case of PMPM? I think so. But anyway, yeah, I think there's PNPX as well. But anyway, yeah, PMPM NX is also fine. Yeah, so PMPM exec is what we're using in the template. There you go. So
cool.
It's DLX when you haven't downloaded it yet, and it's exec when it's coming from your node modules.
Awesome. So I guess kind of what I want to do here, like we already have like CI/CD, so we're going to run lint and test whenever a PR comes through. I also want to do like a separate one so that like when we actually push to main, I want that to be different than a pull request. Because I'd like it where if things get pushed to main, we actually go through and like run the release.
Yeah,
that would be what I would like to do.
Let's just add another job in here.
Sounds good. So we'll
And we can
say,
just make it conditional upon the branch being main.
okay, so we'll call that release.
Yeah.
Yes. And how do we do a conditional here? Would that be
If.
Nice.
Yeah.
If.
And then there you go. The second bit. You don't need the git event name push, just the GitHub ref equals refs head main.
Cool.
And you need all the usual, runs on Ubuntu,
Yeah,
etc.
let's just grab the rest from here. Runs on. We'll just grab all the steps. There we go. And so I think we probably want to do that initially first, right? But then after that,
well, the build will be triggered by your pre-version command automatically. Remember,
right? So we can. Well, I guess it doesn't hurt to warm the cache. I guess it doesn't matter either way. But pm exec.
I mean, I wouldn't run testing and linting in your release step. Like that should have already been evaluated. We'll make release dependent upon the previous job.
Okay.
So we'll, as well as if, we'll do needs main.
Ah, that makes sense. Yeah.
And then hopefully you'll be using NX Cloud, so we'll pull from the build cache anyway when you do the pre-version command.
Right. So then, and now here we just do TS node.
Yep.
Scripts.
Tools/scripts.
Oh yeah, thank you. Tools/scripts/CI release, I think is what it was called.
Yeah,
.ts.
yeah, which we haven't updated yet. So you can get rid of the narwhal NX set chars on line 70, and you can get rid of the comment. No, you need all of that. Just line 70.
Yeah.
Line 70 is a dedicated action, which we don't need.
Right.
And
so
you
we
can
do
get rid
need
of the comment
to
on line 71 to 73. You can get rid of all the comments and stuff.
Right. So we still definitely need all of our dependencies. We just don't need to have all the Git history. And that's everything else. Yeah, that's all just setting things up for that. So cool. So we just need to do that now. Everything else we just set up inside of CI publish.
So on line 70 with the CI publish, we also want to do dry run false. Because I think it makes sense to leave that as true by default and just explicitly say dry run false.
Cool. All right, so CI publish.
Yep.
Here we would go through like all the normal stuff.
Yep.
I think this, for the most part, this stuff is all what we want.
Are you expecting to be able to make a commit and a push from this? And a GitHub release? Are you expecting to do that?
I don't think I would necessarily need that. I guess it would be nice. Yeah, it would be nice because we want the version to, I would like for the only place for the version to actually get touched is actually from that CI job, if that makes sense. Does that make sense to you, James?
Yeah, so because I think if you scroll up, I think we need to adjust the permissions of the GitHub action token that gets created. So if you scroll up, there's a permissions object.
Yes.
Actions read, contents read. I think we need to amend this to you won't be eligible to make a commit and a push. I mean, you'll be able to make a commit, but you won't be able to push to the repo from here. And the other thing to bear in mind is when you push, it's going to trigger this workflow again. So this is personally not a flow that I use. What I do is I use release as a trigger. So I will create a GitHub release by running my script locally. So I'll do versioning and changelog locally. The changelog step creates a GitHub release, and then GitHub release is a trigger to instead of on push, on pull request, it's on release. The release triggers a publishing step, which handles actually publishing to the registry. That's what we do with the NX repo as well.
Okay.
That's not to say that this is impossible. It's just we'll have to take into account the fact that it would trigger itself.
Right.
I think what we can do is
there's a comment here from the chat. Like this would be a way of skipping it.
Exactly. So we can add skip CI to the message, and that's exactly what I was going to suggest. Is exactly awesome. Right.
Nice call.
It's basically like square. It's like square brackets skip CI. That's the syntax that's supported by I think all CI providers to skip. So
awesome.
We can either customize the Git message on NX release side, or we can just not get NX release to not commit. So we can explore customizing that. So if we go back into our, so sorry, I think here we need to set different permissions, but this is where I would turn to an AI. No, it's definitely not read/write. I have a feeling it's just write. We don't need write on actions. We would need write on contents.
But actions we still need read, right? So,
but this is an area where I would turn to Claude
gotcha.
for a quick answer, or I would search the docs. But we can try with that, and we'll see what happens. So yeah, if we go to our script and let's update that.
Cool. So we'll go to our script. CI publish. Cool.
So sorry, did you say you do or you don't want to publish a changelog?
Publishing changelog would be nice. Yeah, let's do that.
And what about creating the GitHub release? You don't care about that for right now, just the changelog.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, that'll be fine.
Okay, so that's the default behavior. We haven't opted into creating a GitHub release, so that's fine. So this will apply the versioning as we hope to. We don't need the version override for this script. We could remove the version. Remember on our CLI on Yargs, we have a custom version property. So arguably we could remove that. That line 7, line 11 stuff. We could get rid of line 6 as well. The only reason -version false was there was so that it didn't count the version flag as an argument to Yargs.
Right.
So now we just have dry run and verbose, which I think is fine. We could maybe rename my custom publish to something else if we wanted to, just to differentiate it from the other script.
It's just called CI publish, and then at the bottom. Cool.
Cool. So then versioning, as we know, we're just invoking it, and it's going to inherit the config from NXJSON, which knows to check for version plans. So we don't need to change release version at all. Then we get through to changelog, where we'll be piping in the response from release version, which contains the version data. It'll generate the changelog. That's all good. So at this point, it will have staged the changes for our package JSON, and it will stage and commit then after the changelog step by default. So there's not actually anything we need to do here before the publish step. The publish step will take place, and then after the publish step, so currently NX release doesn't support automate. Oh, sorry. We need to customize the commit message to include skip CI. That's what we need to do.
Yes, we do.
So in release changelog, I think there should be a git commit. Yeah, git commit message.
Git commits message.
Yeah. And I mean, it's basically that, except we want to add the square brackets at the end. I mean, it can be anything you want it to be. Obviously, this is your commit message, but exactly. So the key thing is that we're adding that at the end of the commit message.
Cool.
But it can be whatever you want it to be in the actual message. So that's that thing. So then, so right now, NX release doesn't support pushing your commit stuff to it. It just expects you to handle that yourself. The only time it automated pushes is when you're creating a GitHub release. So funny enough, the thing I was doing right before this call was adding a git push, like an automated git push option to just opt into doing that for you.
Oh, nice.
I have to cover a bunch of edge cases where if you told us to create a GitHub release, but said git push false, like we need to give you a good error for that because that's dumb.
Yeah.
So things like that. I'm just handling the edge cases, but for now we have to manually git push on your thing. But what you can do for now is there's a git push utility inside of NX release that we could just do a deep import and grab that function. So if you just type git push in camel case, it'll probably prompt you to import it.
There you go.
Exactly. Yeah. And now if you do an await git push on that function. Actually, let's line 45 is capturing whether all publishers succeeded. Let's first grab that as a variable. Let's turn line 45 into a variable.
Okay.
Because this is iterating through all the publish results and checking, are they all code 0? So we want to capture that. The value of the ternary operator, no, not in line in process exit. You need to pull it out above the git push. So we just want the bit before the question mark of the ternary operator. We're saving that, and the rest of the ternary needs to go back into the process exit.
Oh, I see.
No. Just up to the question mark. The
Yes,
question
yes.
mark 0 and colon 0. Yeah. So then we're replacing that. So your result is your overall result of the
Oh,
overall publish, and then that becomes result in line 46. Yeah.
I see.
Exactly. And so now what we're going to do is if like we'll just gate the git push in an if result is not equal to 0, then if result is equal to 0, we'll git push. Let's just write it that way.
Sounds good. Results. What is it? What's this?
Oh, sorry, it's a Boolean. We're setting up as a Boolean. Sorry. So
Yes.
if like you, so rather than result, call it like all successful or something like that.
Success. Yeah.
That makes sense. And then the appropriate exit code will be 1 if not all success. So that's good. So then git push takes an object as well. It also takes dry run and verbose. So let's just set those as we did before. And that should be everything then. So it will handle the appropriate git push commands, including forward, like follow tags and whatever the atomic. Cool. So yeah, this should be what we need then.
Awesome. The other piece to this is
let's run this script in dry run with verbose, and we will see all of the git operations and everything as a way to validate this.
Let's do pm exec ts node and then tools.
You can just do pm ts node as a shorthand as well, but this is the full version. Yeah, either one is fine.
See, I publish and so dry run.
Yeah, just by default. So this should be all we need. So just verbose. Yeah, that's right.
So the other piece of this that I was just thinking of, James, I'm just going to need to. This is something I'll probably have to handle off stream. I need to figure out for publishing. I need to put the credential into that CI script too.
Yeah.
So that I could publish correctly.
Yeah, you'll need to create an npm token in your npm account.
I don't want to do that on stream. Let's just go through the script at least.
Yeah.
And we can like maybe I can do like a post-mortem kind of thing where we can show, hey, this is the results of all this.
So if you just scroll up to the top of this output, we've gone for verbose. There's plenty of stuff in here.
Hey, look at that changelog. That's awesome. Cool. Oh, let's start at the very top. So at the very top, we hit there pre-version command. That's like the first hook. Yep. Everything built.
Yeah. And then it's resolved the current version it would be npm on your CI job. Obviously, we've got Verdasio running, and you've got the config, so it's resolving from Verdasio in your case.
Right.
The version plan is the one that's responsible for the patch version. So we've gone from 2.02 to 2.03. That's also going to be reflected in our package JSON files. So we keep scrolling a little bit. After that, you will see skipped lock file update because PNPM workspaces are not enabled. Okay. That's just happens to be your case. Then staged change files with Git. So because we've got verbose on, you can see that we're actually behind the scenes. We would be calling Git add packages, blah, 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 Git and the other one as well. So that would be staging them at this point. Right. Then we'll be generating a change log, which you've seen. So this is adding an entry for the change log markdown that you wrote. What version of NX are you running?
I don't know. Let's see. NX 21.3.
Okay. I was just surprised to see. Yeah, I was just curious about the way that's being merged in the change log. So I can see you've got dash, and then I guess you added the title, you added the hash, didn't you? That was in your content. Okay.
Yes, that was.
Yeah. Okay. So that's that's kind of not expected. Like the first line is your entry into the change log. So yeah, I guess I didn't give you any guidance on that when I said that. So anyway, it's appropriately pulling in your content. You can fiddle. Obviously, the whole point of the dry run is you can see a preview of what's going to be generated.
Yeah.
So you could.
The idea was like maybe if we wanted to, this would be like the title, and then we'd yap a little bit underneath, right?
Yeah.
Well, but
so there is some opinion on how the changelog gets rendered. Again, if you wanted to make that truly custom, you can provide a changelog renderer. We have a dedicated doc on that.
Right.
So anyway, the whole point of this dry run mode is you're seeing an exact preview of what you'd be getting. So you can iterate on your version plan contents until you're happy with it, kind of thing as well.
Yeah.
So anyway, so that's where we got to with the changelog output. Then you would see at that point that it would remove the version plan because the version plan has now been consumed. So
Right.
it's no longer appropriate to leave it behind.
Oh,
so
that's
now,
perfect. So now that would be wrapped up in my release commit.
Yeah.
And so that would all get pruned at that point. That's really cool.
Exactly.
I would like that.
And
a
so
lot.
then you can see it would stage the changelog file and it would stage the version plan file because you've deleted it. So you need to stage the deletion as well.
Right.
Then it would add the commit at this point, and the commit message has taken your custom value, included the workspace version and the skip CI that you added. Then it's going to tag. It's going to use the tag annotate arguments, like that just happens behind the scenes in NX. It does the right thing for you. Then it'll run publish. We'll see the dry run of the publish output. That in fact is going to be published to the dist, and you'll see the output below.
So this is just like implicitly added to our project graph.
Yeah, this is a target that gets created behind the scenes.
So we could actually see that if we did like NX show.
Yeah, it's specially called out in the project details view in the graph as well.
Oh, cool. Let's see.
So then you'll see the publish output. If you keep scrolling down.
So that's just us publishing,
yeah,
but with dry run set.
Yeah, yeah. And then you'll see at the bottom would publish, but dry run was set. So it would run git publish follow tags no verify atomic, because that's what the git the git push helper that you imported from NX is doing in your script as well.
Beautiful.
So yeah, everything looks good. So the main thing is you would need to add an npm token, and you need to authenticate your node, your setup node thing with the right token in the environment. I think it's called node auth token or something like that. You can have a look at what I do in Angular ESLint or what we do in NX to see what the token usage. You'd just be creating a secret in your GitHub, in your repo.
Right.
And
then we'd be using it like here.
Yeah, you'd set the environment variable like with. Sorry, I think it's you just set the node environment variable called node auth token. But again, you can copy that from any other project.
Right. So what, would the idea be like that's set for the job, or would that be like set?
You can set it for the job. Yeah, you can set it for the whole job.
Okay. So we do env, and then we don't know what exactly it is, but it would be like npm token secret.
I think it's node auth token is the name, and then you set it to your whatever secret. The secret can have any name, but I think the environment variable that would be automatically picked up by setup node. Oh, you're not actually using setup node, are you? Using?
I'm not. Yeah, we're using
setup.
Yeah.
Okay, so that might be something you need to look into, is how you wire that up.
Right.
Because normally I'm doing it with setup node.
But somehow we need to set up this auth token so that when we run this, it has the.
Oh, you are using setup node. You're just using it after PNPM. That's
all. Oh yeah, I guess we are.
So that setup node will automatically pick up that node auth token.
Okay. And that'll configure the secret as long as it gets set inside of GitHub.
Yeah.
Okay, so that should get us there. Let me ask you this real quick, just because I see like for everything in here, all the assets are there, all the things we need to do are here. I'm looking specifically at this. What would it take to get us from here to actually doing the release on GitHub? Is that an involved step, or is that pretty straightforward?
No, you just need in your NX JSON, you just need to set create release GitHub inside your changelog config. We didn't add any changelog config, but inside release, there's a changelog property and there's a create release property. Oh, sorry, you need to pick which one you're targeting. So it'd be workspace changelog in this case, workspace changelog. And then this can be an object instead of, it can be a Boolean for the default behavior, or it can be an object. And if you do create release GitHub.
True.
This is how you'd set a custom changelog renderer in here, by the way.
Cool.
If you that's how you'd wire that up.
Nice. But this is all we need.
Now, if you ran the same command again, you wouldn't just see the preview. It would show you an example of the GitHub URL that would be created if you weren't running in dry run mode.
That's really cool. All right, let's see. So there's the changelog.
Yeah. So now you can see creating GitHub release. That obviously doesn't exist because it's dry run, but that is the URL that you would have.
Wop wop.
If we hadn't run it in dry run mode, that is the URL you would have.
Right. That's cool. All right. So without dry run, we would hit that, and it would actually be there. Right. So that's awesome. I guess this is at least make it, we at least know, okay, this is going in the right spot.
Yeah.
So cool. Was there one for the other project too? Yes, there was.
This is the overall changelog entry. It's going to be one GitHub
Oh,
release.
yeah. That makes sense.
Because they're the same version. So if you had independent, you can set up multiple GitHub releases for independent projects, but in your case, you're versioning in lockstep, so there's one for the whole repo.
That makes sense. Yeah. So we're releasing the repo, and there's actually 2 packages released inside of there. So it's probably the same with NX project itself, right?
You can set up individual project. You can set up individual project changelogs, even for projects which are versioned together, if you want.
Oh, cool.
But by
I don't
default,
think
you're
I'd
only
want
getting the
that.
workspace one. Okay.
Yeah. I think that's the way I'd want to do it. So that's exactly what I want.
Okay.
All right. I think we're like an hour over time now, but we accomplished what I set out to do. Like obviously there's still the step of actually making sure that runs and making sure that the tokens all in there. But I'm going to say thanks to the magic of post production, that's checked off. Yeah, thanks so much for this, James. I think it would be really cool to just put together like a postmortem on this. Like maybe that's a blog article just so it's easier to consume. Just be like, here's what we did. Here's where we're at. Here's what we set up. And here's how we did it. Because NX release is, like Yuri was saying in the chat earlier, I think it's like really, really underrated. And it's definitely something I think a lot of like open source projects could definitely leverage, just because like, I know from working with like folks at TANstack and stuff like that, it's like, it's not like they're happy with how those things work. So if they could get to a point where like they're using this tool for doing that kind of stuff, that'd be really cool. So I'm talking with Corbin sometime soon. We're going to look at another project, not necessarily TANstack. He's a contributor on TANstack too, but maybe in that conversation we can see about like what do we want to do for TANstack here for doing that kind of stuff. We do have a question here.
Yeah, I was going to say, would you mind bringing up the question? So release groups, I added right at the beginning, thinking how cool it would be to have this extra concept that other release and like versioning and publishing tools don't have, the ability to kind of bucket, because obviously we're dealing with monorepos as our bread and butter. So we know that there's cases where you have co-located projects that don't necessarily all align and they have different independent goals and stuff, but some of them can be they're subgrouped together. Like, even though this is independent, these ones are these are fixed, but then my other ones are independent. And then I have another set of fixed ones, but they're not fixed in the same way that these ones are fixed. That kind of stuff can happen when you've got hundreds of projects in a monorepo. And so a lot of other tools don't handle that well. Now, the first version of release groups went in, but then because that wasn't the majority case, and we wanted to build out some of these other capabilities like file-based versioning, conventional commits, like all these different ways of releasing, those got prioritized above building out every case for release groups. So the answer to this question is it's not currently supported to have update dependence cross group boundaries. Groups are kind of sealed away from each other. If you have relationships that span across group boundaries, it's basically not supported. However, about 2 months ago, I basically have rewritten versioning from scratch in a way. I came at it from the point of view of trying to make it better for polyglot repos, those repos I mentioned that have Java and Rust and .NET and Go and whatever mixed with JavaScript. Because right now, when you implement a new ecosystem, you have to copy a lot of code that's in our JavaScript implementation. Each implementation for each ecosystem needs a ton of the same stuff that's not actually related to that ecosystem. It's to do with handling version plans, or it's to do with handling conventional commits. That's actually generic. So I've rewritten versioning to make basically the extensibility points per ecosystem absolutely tiny, and that shared logic is actually in NX itself. Because of other priorities, I haven't yet been able to release that, but it's going to be very soon, TM. It's going to be an opt-in, like V2 of versioning. You'll just have set some flag in your NX.json to opt into it. And I've already written the functionality to make cross-group update dependence work. I have already I've tests for it and everything. I just need to get a chance to finish it off. So I would say it probably is. There's only like a week of work left, and then it'll be opt-in, and it will become the default in NX21 is the plan.
That sounds
But
like the perfect
it's a
Christmas
major
present,
change. So
James.
I can't, yeah, maybe. It can't be something that I just switch on for everybody because it will have breaking changes.
Right.
But we can make it opt-in for people. So anyone that has complex release groups, they can leverage that. But yeah, I'm afraid right now, update dependence cross-group is not supported.
Yeah. I think Jaco's looking forward to that Christmas present. We'll see.
It's much better for everybody. It's better for end users and it's better for maintainers of different ecosystem plugins because they have to maintain about this much glue code instead of this much glue code.
Yeah.
So
100%.
Yeah.
One thing that came up to me was just one of the things that comes up for some of my side projects is I would love to have a maybe like release strategy, not in the sense of it's polyglot, but maybe it's like different intentions. Like there's mono repos I have where I have packages I'd like to publish, but I'd also like have apps inside of there I'd like to release as well. So using sort of the other enhancement that you're talking about too.
Yeah,
Is like
same
release
thing.
groups
Same
the
thing.
same idea? Okay.
Yeah,
Cool.
Yeah, same thing. A release group doesn't have to be a different technology stack.
Right.
But if there are any, and so you can use the release groups right now for that, as long as they're basically separate concerns.
Right.
But
well, even if it's just like two sets, if there's like
yeah,
one name space of packages and a second,
you can do that already. Yeah, you can do that already. Yeah,
that seems very straightforward.
And you can have one of them that's using version plans and one of them that's using conventional commits, even in the same mono repo. But if they have any relationship, which tends to be the case, I think like in practice, people often have groups that have relationships between the groups. There'll be some side effect. So I think this new implementation of versioning is needed to make that truly like first class. And Jaco, I'm afraid no, there's no preview available. It's like as soon as the preview is available, you'll be able to opt into it. That's the milestone I'm talking about.
Right. I think so Jaco had asked this way back before. I had like put that in like we should answer this later, but sounds like you just answered that. Like so you can mix things up with the different release groups. Yeah, that's what you were just responding to, I'm assuming, right, James? Okay. Cool. Well, let's wrap it up there before we start pushing into like plus an hour over. But really appreciate you, James. Thanks.
Cool.
End the stream there. We'll post more on this. Stay tuned. Thanks for
everyone.
tuning in, everyone. Peace.
Bye.